Brother Maron.
Yes, sir.
And it's been a very busy week for you, definitely.
Yes.
You know, by last Sunday, you kind of flew
Uh-huh.
into Atlanta, flew back to Vancouver,
Uh-huh.
back in the middle of the way. Brother flew to New York. Before I know it, under his arm, he has this beautiful princess. I'm like, what in the world is happening? For the people, by the people, is just out there doing their thing. Bro, congratulations, though.
Thank you. Thank
You,
you.
you really, really, really know how to pick them. Like we say back home, you really know how to pick them. And she's a beautiful lady, and I'm looking forward to getting to know her. You know, by Jack Mom, like we say, Jack Mom definitely. So that's a good thing. Seydou yàlla ci yàlla def jàmm
Amin
def
ya
ci
Rabbi,
barke
amin ya Rabbi.
daraja yonent yàlla Muhammad. You know, mashallah,
Amin.
it's really nice. You know. So
Yeah.
how do you feel now, my brother? People are saying that you're up with all the people working for the people, by the people, and having ideas. I guess the man is no longer available. Can that be said, Brother Maron?
No, I got you, man. You know, as I said, you know, we Alhamdulillah, you know. So the fact you know, you cross path with someone, and you know, she's beautiful, uh, great personality,
Right.
and that's what I've been wishing for, man. You know, if you hit that age, you just want someone that you see eye to eye. You know, you all the hard work, you come in, you sleep, take care of you, and that's what was always the goal, man. So
Right.
she's a phenomenal lady, and dumako living a Ken. Kokunana kamara jegburis. Bobula de
Mbada
babo.
doko bole ken mo.
No mako bola ken mone kamara makahole. Mola de bawoja. Even
So, I mean, like I said, I really don't know her, but based on what I've seen so far, and knowing you, I can say this though. She's also a very lucky woman, to be honest, because you're a good man, and you are, like I would say, a gentleman par excellence, no doubt about that. So she's indeed a very, very lucky lady. Yes, we are on YouTube. Lamin F. Trawale, we're always on YouTube. Just go in and all of you sign on to YouTube. We're always on YouTube. So, but like I said, I'm looking forward to really getting to know her. You know,
Definitely. The in-laws, also the in-laws, man. You know, the sisters.
right.
She has sisters in New York, and the brothers. So really great folks, you know. And I'm looking forward for them to welcome you guys.
Absolutely.
I've told them my boss is gonna be in town, and all the
Yeah,
expectations should
I
be
wouldn't miss it for the world. I
on the
mean,
point. So you know, so great folks, and you know, great in-laws, and a
yeah,
lot of people came out, and you know, to support the grace, the occasion, the traditional. So, and my own family side in New York too as well. So
right,
great,
right,
great,
right.
great thing. And I'm sure, you know, New York will be on fire come Friday. So I look forward to it too, sir.
We're definitely looking forward to it. You know, years ago, I used to live on the East Coast. You know, I still remember those days driving from Providence, Rhode Island to the big city, New York. You know, it's never been my kind of place, though. For whatever reason, I've never been able to connect with New York. People like Kopulsane, oh, he's been living there for years. I don't know how they do it.
Oh,
I know people that will never be able to get out of that New York bubble. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it's all New York, But,
Yeah, but I have to thank my sisters too, the sister Tukulor and Fatu
right.
Kamara and my nieces,
Hmm.
Fatu, the other Fatu Kamara and Fatu Sane and
Hmm.
Yasin. So they took up, out. Sister Tukulor was when she put that stuff on Facebook, my phone was buzzing, and I woke up. I was at work, So, but I'm really grateful for all the positive comments, and I'm really
Hmm. Hmm.
looking forward to it. So great folks. So thank you all. Thank you all. And
Oh,
yesterday in Seattle, I told him, he says, "Hey, Sariang, even my old some of my some of my mom's friends, they live in Seattle. They were like, oh yeah." Sorry, yeah. Choose road no den ko yes, yeah long ko you ko
mm,
jambe je bula for New York ko yes, ale ni wala karosa fe. So grateful for the camera family. Thank you all.
yeah. No, today I'm not sure about the internet. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's from my end. It's not as sharp as it's always freezing here and there. You're freezing, and most likely it's from my end.
Yeah, I think you were freezing. You froze a couple of times.
Right. So that's why I have a feeling that it's from my end. But I hope that people at least are hearing me and hearing you as well. But I think it has a lot to do with my internet more than anything else. So Sariang, we're having Mr. Sallah. It's gonna be a very interesting conversation, no doubt. And I understand that he will be joining us in about 45 minutes to an hour. I think he has another interview that he's conducting, and he will be joining us immediately at the end of that one. For the meantime, we're going to talk about Seattle, bro. I was at the hall last night, busy and watching the Seattle event and all the speeches, and I even at one time I wrote, I'm like, Demba, I'm really jealous because I thought that Atlanta, we put up a show, but I don't know, man. Seattle definitely did put up a show. I was able to listen to your speech, Sarayang. You talk about unity and
Yeah.
all of that. And I listened a little bit about Demba. I was trying to get hold of Demba to see whether he can come and tell us a little bit about his speech, what the theme was, and what he was trying to drive at. And I listened to. I haven't listened to Usainu's speech yet. I read a summary of it from I think Kasa TV. It was all about, based on what I read about reconciliation and the party coming together and that kind of a thing. More or less, let's all get together. I listened to your speech also. Definitely, the theme was about unity. But what was the inspiration, if you want to call it that? Saria, what were you trying to drive at?
Well, I think exactly last night what emanated from that convergence at the Malway Event Center in Everett, Washington, is the fact that for the past month or and a half, we're not on message. We left where we're supposed to be, and the focus kind of diverted from the main issues that we should be talking about and the plight of Gambians.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of about personality. UDP has disagreement, there's infighting and all that. And sort of, if you hear from both sides, you need to kind of reflect and take deep analysis and say, how do we approach this issue and address it? And without leaning on one side or the other.
Correct.
And I think that team emanated, and I reflect deeply and say, hey, are we really focusing on the core beliefs of what the party stood for 28 years. I mean, the fact that, I spoke about, Usainu, the founding members, Kemeseng, Boro Suso, Single Nyasi, Modu Sane, and everybody. These are folks that came together, Musa. We think about 28 years ago.
Right.
There was absolutely no internet. They don't have any fundraising apparatus, right? These are folks who are very, very selfless. They were not outside the Gambia to form this party. They were within Gambia to form the party. And some of them, if you listen to Lawyer himself, he has one of the lucrative legal career, but he gave it away because, Jammeh fought against him. But regardless, he was very determined. And these folks, they are human beings. They had their own internal disagreement. But these are the same folks after 28 years. Everything that they went through, they stick together, and that's why we have the United Democratic Party. And that's something that all of us, me, everyone else who is online, who might be watching today, something says about the character and the integrity of these folks, right? So I think when you say you go in there and insult someone, or you attack someone, or you call someone names and all that stuff, being selfish, who are you speaking for? I mean, are you speaking for the United Democratic Party? Because the main core beliefs and the founders and majority of those people don't sit up there and insult people. And I think that's where our team was. And I would say, hey, let's have a bigger conversation of this problem. And let's talk honestly and identify it, and hopefully find some type of avenue to resolve this. And I think that was the theme. Are we drifting away from the core beliefs? The founders who we say, oh, it's about UDP, but what is UDP? What does it stand for? It doesn't stand for when folks call and challenge you on your policy to go out on limb and insult. That's not what UDP stands for. What UDP stands for, and the folks, they don't people, they don't talk about people in an ill-conceived manner, right? Or attacking people. No, what they see was a country, and due to even lack of resources, they took some of their property. Like Hussein said, one of his interview on Kerfado, he sold some of his properties to fund the party. And there were many, there was not a lot of engagement outside, but more of them, they were very, very, self-centered, selfless in their demeanor to fund the party. And I think that's what the message, if you're going to attract people to come to your party, you have to open up. You have to invite people, and you should be able to take objective criticism, learn from it, apply it. Then that's how you're going to attract more new majority. And I think elections are very consequential. Everything that's going on, the challenges and everything, if you continue, to personally go at each other, any day that you did not talk about that, the challenges in Gambia, any day that things are happening and our mega resources are being depleted, you don't talk about it, you talk about personality, you're doing a disservice to the core beliefs of the party and what you are fighting for. You need to kind of reflect on, what am I fighting for really, right? So, and I think what emanated from the that fundraiser was, how do we address this, and how do we bring everyone on board to be on the same page? And I think that's what we spoke about. And personally, I spoke about something that we need to learn from the founders, right? So because we knew them, but they love one another. If those founders, if one of them you call, like in a marriage stuff, and if you call their family out, you will see Jola in them, you will see Manjago in them, you will see Fulla in them, you will see Wolof, Cyril, and sort of. So this whole theme about, attacking people, because people will label you if you go in there and start talking like you adrift from the core beliefs of what your parties represent. And I think that needs to be a push for folks to understand it. And I think, I left, but I listened to Usainu himself. He said, if you go ahead and attack people, you're not speaking for the party, because he has been very, very clear from the get-go, talking about do not attack, do not insult people. And that's not what, our disagreements about. We can speak about policy. We can challenge the status quo, but also let's attract people. And I gave a page that folks who were watching, if some people who went back to MPP and they want to come back home, they should be able to come back. Do not insult people. Do not talk about it. And I think we did a great job. And I think the message last night was love and unity. And we need to be laser focused on 2026. Whether we got the Constitution or not, we have to take it head on. And the fight is steep. But I think the energy and intensity and the excitement I seen last night reassure me that I think folks who went into the militancy camp should come back home and kind of synchronize with the message and team that was in that hall last night. It was very exciting, and I saw a lot of people. But before I hold them, my boss, MB Kurbali, did a phenomenal job. And today is his birthday. I wish him all the best, and great guy, have people skills by every measure, and him and his team put out a phenomenal job. My brother Juara and LT and all of them, Pa Usman, they were great, putting the structure together, and there was a lot of excitement. And I hope this excitement continues and folks are able to dialogue, and without being too personal. And I think, we kind of, inject civility into our political discourse. And I think that's what it's about, I mean, you got great folks. My brother man was there to say who Kamara was in the presence. So definitely, what I took out was unity and love, and, focus 2026. That's what Musa, the team was last night. And I wanted to emphasize that it was great seeing everybody, but we need to stay focused. And that's what the mission is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, like I said, I also want to congratulate my Denver, the venue. Oh my goodness. I'm like, we are in the same business. And whenever I see his venue, I'm like, Denver, I'm really, really jealous. The crowd was just large and beautiful. I mean, the decoration was well done, on point. It was really, really, really well organized. And I stayed late in watching different speeches and that kind of a thing. So it was without a doubt. But again, always, like you said, you guys talked about unity. Prior to 2021, there was you guys were also in Seattle, very many places as well. So talk about unity, talk about, how we all stay together, stay on message. But for whatever reason, every now and then they just fall back to their laurels. Something that really doesn't help the party at all. Now, I do understand every viable party, whether you're talking about the ANC, whether you talk about some of these other political parties, there is always internal jockeying. I mean, and any party worth its salt, we should really encourage that. That tells you a party being there on the move. When you have, like I said, jockeying and intra-party differences here and there, as long as it's kept in a very civil manner, and sometimes it can get contentious. That is to be expected. UDP sometimes they have a very bad rap. I mean, fairly or unfairly. Going all the way back to even prior to the 2021 election, they accuse them of the party that insults. And I mean, we all know a good number of them, like you said, the founding fathers, the Usainu or the executive, they don't engage in that. But you always have what I would call call them loudmouths, if you want to say that. They are the ones engaged in that kind of behavior. That doesn't help the party. They kind of get extremely emotional. I don't know whether Sariang is you or it's my internet, but
no, mine is steady. Mine is steady, Musa. You might want to log off and come back in. I'm good to go.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I have to ask people that whether is it just me, maybe. Do I still? I just want to make sure that because it's kind of going in and out. So I don't know whether it's my internet. Can you guys hear me? Just give me feedback. Basidundao is saying that, sorry, Yang, it's you. I mean, Bas, the other thing too, somebody is asking about us pinning our YouTube link. I mean, you may have to help us with that one. I know that you're on the show. If you can just.
So Bas said it's me?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay, well, I can log off and come back in while you do your. Yeah, just go ahead and do that, Musa. Let me just go back.
Bas said it's
back out and come back.
So Bas said it's. But yeah, you can log off and log
yeah,
back
let me try that. Let me try that for a minute and see.
So I mean, like I was saying, I really watched the convention in Seattle. I told them about that I am really jealous because here we had UDP in Atlanta, and Usman Manjang and the crew. They're fighting to bring convention, I think, in 2025 in the US to Atlanta, and I'm here supporting them as well. I think Atlanta did, I mean, notwithstanding the kind of show that Seattle put together, but Seattle never sorry. I mean, it's just tough. And I mean, I even saw the people of Europe, they were having a hard time staying awake to follow the program. So, that's their, what I would call the logistical disadvantage for having programs like this. I mean, on the West Coast, especially in Seattle. So I think this is where I believe, Sariang, I was just talking about Seattle. They have what I would call a logistical disadvantage. There is this talk about the convention coming to the US. This is where I think Atlanta has a upper hand, I think, really, because it's in the middle on the East Coast. When you live in Europe, you're like 4 or 5 hours behind, and you're not like 29 hours behind. You guys start the store at 10 o'clock. The people in Helsinki, they were ready to go to bed. So that really works against you guys. So on the West Coast, in as much as you put up a show, I haven't listened to Usainu's speech yet. I briefly listened to Talib's speech, a very short one indeed. I mean, he didn't make any news, and I think maybe that was intentional. No news is always good news. I mean, it was a nice speech, basically thanking and congratulating different personalities in Seattle. So it was interesting. I'm yet to listen to Rohis and also Usainu. Maybe sometime today I'll have an opportunity to listen to that. But again, Seattle, they always put up a show, and they did a hell of a job. And I had to listen to you. I'm like, I gotta listen to Sariang. I mean, because and I think, I mean, you definitely put up a good speech. Demba Balde as well.
Yeah,
you know how Demba is.
Demba is my boss, so it was good hearing from him. Yeah.
Yes. But
it was.
As we continue to wait for Mr. Sallah, something else happened at the UNGA, they call it, the United Nations General Assembly. Gambian cabinet ministers were pretty much lambasted, insulted. The streets of New York. Different people have different opinions about it. And some kind of talk about, look, this is what we used to do during the time of Jammeh. And I don't know whether you had an opportunity to see, I mean, Joby's going after Dr. Cisse, and then some other individual, I don't know the man, was basically going after Dr. Samate.
Yeah.
And that created a little bit of I had a discussion with Pasam, and I'll just tell you what I thought about that whole thing, candidly speaking. Without when I saw it, I was disgusted. Generally, I think protest is important. Really, to me, it's a channel to tell your public officials, to help to hold them accountable, to tell them how you feel, that kind of thing. So protest in itself, there's nothing wrong with that. And there were some people in New York, in my opinion, that were engaged in that, whether you agree with them or not. They thought that this is a way for them to hold their public officials accountable. But what I saw, and especially the one, Dr. Samate, the thing that the guy was calling him, insulting his mother, I thought there was no place for something like that. Calling the man a murderer, I thought there was no place for something like that. Now, do we have corruption in the Gambia? We do. Do we have some serious problems, with our public officials? We do. But by God, what I saw on the streets of New York, I don't think our public officials deserve that. I don't think that Dr. Samate, whatever one thinks of him, I think he's a good man. I think he's a family man. I don't think he's a murderer, for heaven's sake. He's a doctor. Hold him accountable. I get that. Protest against the policies. I get that. But my friend, for heaven's sake, what was done, for me, I have a serious issues with that. I know some people who say, but you know what? You guys used to do it to Jame in Washington, in New York. But I don't think that's where our country is. Do we have challenges? We do. During the time of Jame, we are talking about a totally different political climate. Now, I just don't think. Now, again, I am not against protest. When you say that, people think I am not against protest at all. One can utilize the tool anyhow you want. I get that. I even have a problem the way Job is handled. Tukulur, I disagree with you, Dr. Cisse. You see, you can disagree with Dr. Cisse all you want. We invited him. He came to this platform. He's going to come to this platform again. We're going to hold him accountable. Every Tuesday, he's on Coffee Time. People are disagreeing. Gambia, we have an evolving democracy. People are free to speak their mind. Our leaders, they do have issues, serious issues. But by golly, what I saw in New York, that is un-Gambian. I don't think that's where we are. I don't think Dr. Samate deserves that. He's a doctor, for heaven's sake. He's a good man. He's a family man. Diko oye I MF. Diko oye I murderer. What kind of nonsense is that? What kind of nonsense is that? I don't think there was any place for. I'm telling you, Sarian, I was seriously, upset. I don't know Dr. Samate. I've never spoken to him in my life. What happened when those kids died? That was a very sad thing. And it happened under his watch. And I understand that. And he should be held accountable. I get that. And he was held accountable. There was a reason why a task force was formed. There was a reason why they looked into it. There was a reason why policy changes were made. But by golly, and he should still be held accountable. Should the man have resigned? We can agree to disagree on that. Maybe under his watch it happened. Maybe Barrow should have fired him. Maybe he should have, whatever. We can have those disagreements. Why, bro? What the man was put through, the guy doesn't deserve that. Being a public official doesn't mean that you can be intimidated and bullied and insulted. I think there's a problem with that kind of protest, if you ask me. I really, really, really do. I seriously do. I don't know whether you had an opportunity to see it, my friend.
Yeah, Musa, am I freezing still, or I'm good to go now?
I can hear you. I think you're good.
Yeah, that's what Boss is saying that I'm freezing still.
You're freezing still.
I like to definitely.
But we can hear you, though. and you're coming in and out. Can I hear? Look, am I here? Okay, you're freezing big time, Sarian, and I'm not hearing you. Look, I mean, Tukulor, what Gambians did to Jammeh. Tukulor, Bilahi, I am not saying that Jobis cannot do that, but if anyone is seriously gonna say what Gambians did to Jammeh, let's look at where we were at that time. Here is a guy that was murdering journalists. Here is a guy that was murdering judges. Here is a guy, we were living under a serious dictatorship. Nobody can challenge this man. Nobody in the diaspora dare land foot in the Gambia. I mean, FM stations where all they do is play music. The channel of communication of our outrage was very limited. But that's not where we are as a people, Tukulo. Man, that's all I am saying. I am not saying that people cannot protest, but the way this so-called, what they will call the public shaming, what they call about insulting of people, I don't think that that's where our country is. Being a public servant, that doesn't mean there are good people in the current government. There are seriously good people in this government. There are also lousy people in this government that one can disagree with. And I'm going to send you the, Sukulor, I'm going to send you the link. But I personally, I was disgusted what I saw happening. I don't think that's where our country is. Digga. Man, make alone. I do not think that's where our country is. Should there be protest? Yes, sir, there should be protest. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, and you back here? Copy. I gotta send this to Tukulor so that give her a chance to but now look, I am all for holding public officials accountable. I'm all for that. To be candid, I am absolutely all for that. What I have a problem with, being a public official does not mean that automatically people can just say anything to you. I mean, look. So and this comparison bring about, well, you guys were doing the same thing to Jammeh. Like I said, we were at a totally different place. You cannot even compare the two. I mean, we can always, like I was telling Pasamba at one time, say what's the difference between, let me put up Bob Toure, what he's saying, what was then in the Jammeh era. It's totally different, Bob Toure. And it's sad that you guys haven't look, even during the Jammeh era, I can tell you this. Holding insult at Jammeh, at Jammeh's mother, I had issues with it. I remember when we were at Adams Hotel in Washington, during those days, that demonstration, I had a problem with that. On Fatu Network, when people were, hauling insult at Malik Bay, I had a problem with that. For me, and we were at a very horrible place, Bob Toure. You cannot seriously, even compare the two. There were no channels that we can, the outrage that was happening. For heaven's sake, people were being murdered. We were at a totally different place. The only way that we could communicate to this man and made it absolutely clear that, that was our only way of communicating with the Gambian people, to make it absolutely clear that this guy, he's a nobody. But that's not where our country is. We still have challenges. Man, I can guarantee you, you can look within our neighborhood, our sub-region. I think Gambia, in as much as I would like to see change come 2026, but believe me, are you telling me Guinea-Conakry is much more democratic than we are? Are you telling me the same challenges that they have in Burkina Faso, the same challenges in Mali? I'm just saying, Gambia, without a doubt, our aspirations was betrayed. I always say that. But Dr. Samate does not deserve what he got. Dr. Cisse does not deserve what he got. You can communicate and be very critical of them, But this so-called public shaming, and you know what it revealed to me, to be very candid, people when they engage, they're ignorant more than anything else. And I hate to use the word. They are ignorant. Seriously. That is not the way.
Okay,
am I good?
Musa may malegi, Musa melen ma ñëw na. Déglu naa ba sona Musa, déglu ma. Gis nga Panderi Mbay lim dee def loolu nga dee def dang dee xëcc nit ñi nga indi leen ci platform bi. So you succeeded. But Musa, what you're doing is extremely dangerous actually.
Okay.
What you are doing is extremely dangerous. Suma digante ak Yàlla waxtaanuma Coach Pa Samba Jaw, but I bet what I'm going to tell you is what he told you. There's a difference between insulting, and I saw people writing this about Jobis' video. Oh, he was insulting, he was disrespectful, he was harassing. That is a lie. And I'll tell you why. When you have to keep in mind what Jobis can do in America. If this was Gambia, he would have been called in for questioning. That is the reason why the Gambians that are here should be able to show the Gambian government and its leadership that this is normal in everywhere else in the world except Gambia. Yo Musa Jeng ordinary job is slim def. So the Gambia la konon bente mungi prison.
It happens every day in the Gambia. Every day it happens in the Gambia.
Job is slim def. Gis nga man Musa, there is one thing about me. Ak luma digger popa. Even though dang you dey activists on steroids, there is one thing I never ever do. Buy my health si lolu. Fo xamne dañ saga ni do Musa gis ma cheya ko to do gis Musa gis ma kondon ko.
No, you will not do that.
Jobis video mi dama ko seet ñaari yoon dama ko seet because I saw the whole thing. Then I said to Kurbali, can you send it to me? But by the time he sent it to me, somebody else said. And it was like he was actually saying factual things. And you know what pissed me off? The fact that Ismaila approached the cop thinking that he can be arrested for harassing him, quote unquote. That pissed me off. If anything, he needs to have a thick skin. There's a reason why he's being paid. He traveled from Gambia to New York on Gambia's dime. A Gambian is who confronted him, not an American, not a Puerto Rican, not a Ghanaian, not a Senegalese. It was a fellow Gambian citizen who went after him, who had the fundamental human right to protest. In the American Constitution, even somebody like Joe Biden, America is much more advanced than Gambia. Li nga gis ñuy sotti Joe Biden du Trump a ngi ni ñu ngi dem di ko sànni fetal pour mu dee. Yet all those people go through due process. So Job is what he did. Musa was not harassment, was not rude. He did something that Gambians on the ground couldn't do, and some of us.
Oh no, I disagree. I disagree. No, this idea, Gambians do that every day.
Musa Job is slim deaf in New York. Sudan Gambia la. Konon all call nanko in for questioning.
No.
Yes. Madi Jobati wrote on his Facebook and he was called in. Mom Dr. Sise Bisa, he wrote on his Facebook and he was called in. So don't sit here and tell me, he wouldn't have been called in. You know, Musa.
Instances and incidentals to kind of buttress. How about what happened to Dr. Samate? Will you support something like that?
Because there are two things that happen. So having said all of that to you, Musa, Nella, what Job is did was okay. We applauded it. We're proud of him for doing it. But then what happened to Dr. Samate? Man Facebook la duga barkadiema. Ma this video before ko confronte. I couldn't even, to be honest with you, I didn't even watch the whole video because I was so upset. Even though people kunde am yarut munna taxaw di saga ndey jambur. Why bente it is very un-Gambian. Pour nga tok di saga ndey nit. Te lu daw suma yaram Dr. Samate tontu ko sax dafa taxaw rek di ko hol. I didn't even, people said they later on whisk him off because I chose not to even listen to the whole thing. So this guy who was insulting his mother, if he was doing it to score points, he lost points. If he was doing it to be sensational so that we could say, hey, but I mean for Dr. Samate, he didn't get that and he will not get it. Because a true activist A true activist is actually a peaceful person. A true activist will have their message across in a more respectful way. And you know what is sad about that whole thing? Their staging was beautiful. They had this slideshow, Musa, that was really well done. Manginan, wow. Time struggle, this would have been very helpful. They had beautiful placards. But the mistake, one person ruined it all. Tell all of us, Manso de Mesmo will be, you will not see anything shared of that particular protest because I did not agree with what was said there. So Musa, and I actually will be and there are many people who are not who were very unhappy with me. Nema, I should just be quiet. Manel, and why should I be quiet? Because Kilim Def then Kora will teach what a protest is and what being rude and insulting people is like. Mom lim def mom. Therefore, def law hamne is tasteless. It is on Gambian because Gambian be hamud lord. Respect them.
Not only Gambian, not only Gambian, any civilized entity. Seriously, that's not the way to approach public officials. Whatever you think of them, we can have political differences. But what I'm saying is, our Gambian public officers, and some of them are very corrupt, and some of them, left to me alone, they'll be out of their jobs. But by golly, what I saw in New York, that's not where our country is.
Absolutely. Well, Musa, that's where our country is because we have leaders who lie.
Look, listen to me.
We have leaders who lie.
Let's take Dr. Cisse for instance.
Dr. Cisse, listen to me. Dr. Cisse, the life of a government that is not doing what it's supposed to do for its people.
I agree. Like we can have disagreements. But I'm not saying I agree with Dr. Cisse.
Coach. Tell me, was Coach far removed from what I'm saying to you?
It's not.
No, that's not my question. Was Coach Pasamba far removed?
We don't see eye to eye. Well, listen.
Musa, gis nga coach fi nekkon tay.
No, dina ñew sa. I'm sure he's listening. Yeah. This is what I told Pasamba. Maneko, Pasamba will support any protest. Mom, instinctively, people need to protest. But man, I know Pasamba will not do. And I told him that. What these guys did. Yes. He will never do it.
No. What will one of these guys do? Musa, Kena mo saga, kisaga la nyo address. Why we talk? Massive job is him. I was proud of him, and we all should be. Because this na time all
it's nothing more than
Musa. You know what you're doing? You know what you're doing? During your Jammeh days, Gambians went out and protested. What you're doing today, you're discouraging Gambians to come out and protest.
No, absolutely not.
Yes, you are, and
every day.
That's wrong. That's wrong. Because you nekani, job is slim deaf, my protest. I want every single Gambian to be proud of what
I have no problem with
protest. That is a protest. What the guy did is rude and insulting. So let's
interrogate. We need to interrogate. Why do we protest? It's to basically send a message to our public
because you're unhappy with your government.
Yes, to effect
because
change.
You're unhappy with your government. So when you're unhappy with your government, you protest. You stand up against whatever you're unhappy with.
All I know is
a protester, an
activist,
not something. No, Jobis,
what you saw in New York, you will not do it.
Them protesting with Duga DC. Take lim defti money. Yeah, jamme Gambian sisani win ko ay nen bem dem si gannaaw di bado
and I am you know what, Tukulor, I am absolutely and I know you are an honest, genuine person, but to even create these parallels in what I would call false equivalence, where we were during the time of Jammeh, a murderer, an evil person, that there was no channel of communication against Jammeh.
There's still no channel of communication with Adama Barrow. Adama Barrow doesn't even care about Gambians. When was the last time Adama Barrow spoke to the Jammeh's victims? When was the last time Adama Barrow stood up and said what Jammeh did to the victims is wrong?
Issues. What Barrow does or doesn't do, don't get conflict issues. All I'm saying is
no, because man, Musa ling de gis la nga xam la xam. Let's nango hante diga Musa Jeng. We have a government that is inept. We have a government that is there to enrich itself.
That is true.
So legi Gambians in diaspora bi. Anywhere there's these government officials because they are working for a government that doesn't care about you. Wherever they go, come out and protest. Just don't insult. Go out and protest.
I want to allow I don't want to, I want Sariyang to come in and.
Bapare haral mo said bi. Haral mo said bi. Jabari Sariyang am na jëkkër joo xam ne. Xam naa ne waa Kamarakunda yi nag ñoom tam seen bokkale de, but I'm telling this our beautiful wife ne am na jëkkër joo xam ne Sariyang, I've known him, Musa, as you know. You and I have known him since Gambia. He is a gentleman. He is an amazing guy, and for me, a person like him deserves an amazing, because they're gonna do ba si jabarti. I think spoke to her once. Be Papino Mariama Rere, because she was there more than Toga Kini. Mariama be Papa Rere. So may Allah bless this marriage. Serian, you deserve the happiness. Motangawache Facebook. We are so proud of you and happy for you. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. No, but Musa.
Yes, sir.
Musa, I listen to both sides make argument, and I honestly think, Jobis has the right, but again, I think unfortunately today I'm with you on this one. Honestly, I would not have. Jobis could have engaged Dr. Cisse differently, and without calling him out on that. I mean, I take things for myself. If I work for the government, I mean, it's whoever wants to switch sides, it's their right to do so. But the fact, I think he looked at Jobis. He didn't engage him. I don't know what was going on. But we have to also give the man some positive, though. When he took over the information ministry, he was very engaging to the media platforms. He's been on Coffee Time. He came on this show. And I think today I can pick up, despite I never talked to him, but if I pick up a phone and call Dr. Cisse, I think he would respond. And I think, yes, they have the right to protest. But I also think as a family man, the man who has, why would you? The approach was not cordial, obviously. That's why he told the security guard, this man is harassing me. But I think he was panicked. And I think, again, my position will be, let's engage civility in our political discourse. Going after someone in the hands, in the streets of New York, as Dr. Cisse, and I think Jobis hadn't been and say, Dr. Cisse, can I have an interview with you? And I have questions with you? And I think that's where we need to be driving at. Even though protest, we have the right to protest. But at the same time, shaming folks who came on here, what are some of the crimes that Dr. Cisse did? I mean, obviously, we have to call out it is, right? So what did he do? Just joining MPP? I really don't think so, right? So for the fact that for Dr. Samate's part, I was disgusted like anybody else, because I don't think Dr. Samate deserved that, and you can engage people by insulting him. You are a murderer. Who did he kill? I think we need to step back a little bit and reflect on these things, right? Don't shame you. Musa, you don't want me to shame you. Don't shame me. Psychological reciprocity, right? What is giving back to you, it's given to me. So I think my take was that let's engage the public official. Hadn't been they had Jobis lives in New York. It could have been different if he had some type of engagement with the people on the opposite side of the spectrum to have a conversation with doctor and ask him questions, right? And I think that would be more effective. But what has he gained out of this? I mean, what is the end game here? What is the result? Other than we share the videos, but what has he accomplished though? If it was really truly about addressing the challenges of Gambia, what has he accomplished? You can call things up, but let's. I think we all need to lower the temperature down. I mean, Dr. Cisse is a young man. He's out there. I mean, he's been very engaging. This was the brainchild behind this Mansakunda stuff, right? Because he wants to have an engagement. Engage him is the ministry through the right protocols. He has the right. He could protest. But don't feel like somebody felt like you are harassing him. I mean, harassment might be subjective, but I really think it was uncalled for. And Musa, Definitely. There is no enabling dictator here and all that stuff,
That's
Joby.
why I want to
Yow hamga, man hamna. We don't get, but what we are talking about is let's respect each other and treat each other with respect and dignity. I think that's why I'm like, effectively, if you had organized some type of meeting and engage the state house or whatever ministry, Dr. Cisa, and say, we would like to have a conversation with you. We saw you interview people before. Why couldn't you use that avenue this time around and talk to him and engage him? And I think that's what the conversation is. This passion about protest, you can protest. We don't have a problem with that. But I think if you go and it seems like somebody felt that you are harassing him, he's entitled to say that, right? But lessons learned, let's apply next time when they come in here, and let's engage and let's have civil discourse, talk about issues and address them. Unfortunately, my boss today, definitely. Yeah.
No, Jobis, even if you want me to send you the link, I'll send you the link. I mean, we're not enabling a dictator. What I am saying is, whatever you think of Dr. Cisse flip-flopping, I agree. He did. If you're suspicious that he was being very opportunistic, I agree. He was very opportunistic. The man hasn't done anything that you politicians do that. Whatever is motivating him. We brought him on this program. We challenged Dr. Cisse. We did. We asked the questions. We did. But let's bear something in mind. Being a public official doesn't mean we can insult, we can intimidate, we can get into public shaming, that somehow the end justify the means. To me, Jobis, to be very honest with you, all you are engaged in is grandstanding and attention seeking more than anything else. It was seriously, and I
don't think it's a grandstanding. Let's just be kind of careful how we go about this, right? Jobis has been there, and I see the folks on. No, hold on a second. I want to be fair. Hold on a second. Tukulo, give me 1 second though. I don't think it's grandstanding, and I think the other side was trying to paint him. Oh, you show up. You met with Fatuba Barrow and all that stuff. And let's not take things and say, oh, it was grand. He's not an attention seeking. If you follow Jobis, he's been on Gambian issues. You can talk. You can do everything you want to say about it. It's not grand seeking, attention seeking, but the way and manner. That's what we need to address. We can't do that though. I mean, we can't. He's not attention seeking. That's his right to do that.
I want to give him the opportunity, Jobis. I want to give you the opportunity to come and tell me, Musa Jeng, and this is where I disagree. That's what this platform is about. I'm not going to say anything that I do not believe in. I had a problem with supposed to be, I kind of disagree with your approach and the way you went about it. The one that disgusted me was the Dr. Sametas one. Yeah. That's the one that boiled my, seriously, and maybe pushed me a little bit to have more issues about what you did. Did once for Dr. Samate? No, I have an issue with that. Dr. Samate, I don't know him from Adam. But seriously, his public persona, I think he's a good man. He's a doctor. This man cannot be a killer, my friend. Disagree with the man all you want. But that he is not. But to the Kosaga, bro, I will put our democratic credential within our sub-region. We have problems, serious problems, and we need to change that. MB Kurbali, the very effective MC, without a doubt. MB, somehow we were able to drag you onto this program. We've tried several times. How are you doing, my friend?
So yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Congratulations. I stayed all night watching the event in Seattle, and my brother, I think you handled it well. No doubt about it.
Thank you so much.
And I had to listen to my man. I mean, the newlywed to deliver his speech. I mean, I was impressed.
He did very well. He did very well. Thank you so much. And good morning to all of you guys. I couldn't help but call about this whole Jobis thing that you guys are talking about. First of all, I would say, including myself, Gambians, we have to have thicker skin than we do have, especially when you're in the position of leadership. It is easier said than done, but it's a training, it's a process that we have to complete. Now, what these people need to understand is that the reason why Jobis acted the way he acted is out of frustration. Our citizens are frustrated. We cannot engage these leaders. When we engage these leaders, when we say things that they don't want to hear, they use the weapon in the country against us, just like we're seeing the president is doing against the Standard newspaper. That frustration is why when they get out of the country, people protest. And when they protest, listen, all Dr. Cisse had to do as a state minister is to stand there and engage Jobis. If you're in a hurry, be accessible to the media, be accessible to the citizens, give them an outlet to be able to speak. If you don't do that, they're going to force you. If Dr. Cisse had turned around there and said, Jobis, I am going to a meeting, I will give you 2 minutes of my time. What questions do you have? If somebody comes to you aggressively, turn to them and give them the attention they need, or give them their minute for a second. But continuing to walk, and the biggest mistake he did was going to those New York City officials. And what he did there is a knee-jerk reaction of what he would have done in the Gambia. If he's not happy the way you talk to him, if he's not happy the way you're dealing with him, he uses the military, the police against you. And that's what Dr. Cisse did. He couldn't even connect that he was not in the Gambia. So what I would say is, yes, what Jobis did is out of frustration, but it is not wrong. We have to challenge this.
I don't know about frustration. I don't know about frustration.
Well, I mean, again, I think that's what it is at the end of the day.
Jobis, I'm going to send you the link before.
Yeah, Musa, we have to agree and disagree. What MB also put out, it goes with it. How about if doctor turns around and say, I'm going into a meeting, give me time, what time do you want to meet and talk about issues? And I think that could have been also effective on both ways. So we have to be careful. And I'm not dismissive at no point about what Jobis did. I felt that Ismail at some point, he was caught off guard. But again, you have to play different roles here. But for the fact that he's an attention seeking, I don't think this man has been talking about Gambian issues on Facebook Live on many occasions during the time of jamming.
I just sent him the link just to give him the opportunity. For me, I don't really have a problem with that. Like I said, I mean, as someone who really, I have issues with this government. I want to see change come 2026. But the methods that we are utilizing, as if that when we are still in the Gambia of 15, 16 years ago, and we're going to use the same tools, I have a problem with that.
But Musa, we have the same issue, though. You cannot hold on a second. I think
always.
No. I think
have issues.
No. But you know what? Even though you're talking about those democracy, but we face the same challenges, right? We don't have good electricity. We don't have healthcare, and all. So we have to talk about these issues.
But we are always talking about it. What I'm saying is,
but they did not do that. They haven't moved a single needle up about it. That's the problem, and I think I agree in the aspect of he approach. But at the same time, let's not be dismissive about our problems and challenge. Where does Gambia stand still now? It's the same old. Same old.
There we go, conflating issues again.
No, it's not conflating. 90 people, ferrying 90 people to the United Nations when you cannot pay your damn bills for Senate. It's a problem.
Conflating issues. It's
not.
I agree. But that's not where the conversation is. I totally agree. We say that every day, whether it's NAWEC, whether it's inflation, whether it's even, I mean, we always talk about issues. The question is, how do you talk about these issues? That's where the fundamental issue is. And for anybody,
if I may just so that I can get off the line, I know a lot of people want to really.
No link sent to me. I just sent you the link, Jobis.
Yeah. So Musa, when was the last time you had Dr. Cisse on your show?
When he became minister of this new position.
How long ago was that?
Was it when he just came?
When he newly was appointed,
When he
brother,
was
and,
newly
and,
appointed.
and he promised that he was going to come every month, and he did not fall through with that promise. And Musa knew that.
But to be fair to him though, we haven't reached out and said, Dr. Cisse, you know what? We haven't done that. We invited him and he came. I don't want to be seen as holding briefs for Dr. Cisse. Seriously, it's not even a very comfortable position for me to be.
People are not going to accuse you about that. So
my position is what I saw in New York, I disagree with. And I want to tell Gambians living in the Gambia, because there is this tendency, diaspora, position. These people do not necessarily represent, they don't speak for me. Let me make it absolutely clear. They do not speak for the majority of sane Gambians in the diaspora that effected change in 2016.
It is like you saying, MB, you speaking for the Gambians.
No, what I don't. Doing,
wait, let me come. I'm gonna speak 30 seconds and then I'll let you go, guys. Go. Okay. Man, folk now, you want to def more. Try and get doctor here. But what you cannot do, Musa, is what we have done for years, what nations have done for years to correct the mistakes that is happening in their country. Protesting and challenging your leaders is a process. It goes back centuries. People do this all over but what you guys are failing to realize is every nation does this. But whenever we do it, we tell Dr. Cisse Fumnekani, the way he is behaving in that country, the way he is treating the media, even the fact that under his leadership today, the president, the most powerful person in the country, is suing a small newspaper. Even if the newspaper had done something wrong to him, Dr. Cisse should have come out as somebody who was part of us, somebody who has some common sense, with hope that he would have done something, and tell the president, advise the president to say, this is a wrong move. This is not good for you. But these are the things that we have going in that country, and this is what is frustrating people. But man, I just called to say,
MD, thank you. We're going to bring you back here again to talk about issues.
Happy birthday, brother MD.
Make sure he sends you a check, because we plugged his for the people by the people last. Madam Musa, send us a check. We plugged you last night. That's why you have a lot of viewers. Send us a check. We plugged you last night. All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. But and this will give us a segue to go to these other issue with Voice newspaper. Again, MB Coulibaly, I know for a fact that MB Coulibaly will not act the way that these people acted in New York. I know that for a fact. I know that Sariyang Marong will not. I know Tukulor will not. Even Pa Samba, Kinga Hamne, activism is his DNA, will not act in that manner. So to me, it says a lot. I see my brother Madi, for them, any protest, they will kind of give it a pass. I'm not going there. I really don't. But the segue that
Musa, in principle, as I said, it's psychological reciprocity. You can engage people. Huh? Am I freezing?
No, Jobis, because I really want to give him an opportunity, because I don't want him
to give him the opportunity. I mean, yeah. No, if he's on his phone, he has to go to Safari to be able to get to the link. If he is doing on any type of search engine, it's not going to work. So that's the thing. I mean, it depends. If he's on a computer, it's easier.
He said it's WhatsApp. I mean, Jobis, I want to give you the opportunity, honest to God. For you
you can give him your number to call you directly. Okay. Then you can put him on speakerphone.
So Jobis, call me on this number, and I will put you on speaker, and you can lambast me all you want. 0219. Please do call me on WhatsApp, and I'll put you on speaker. But my brother, something else also did happen. And I was like, wow, this government, they really have a way of messing things up.
They always do. They always do.
Mr. Sallah is here, so we're going to change. We're going to shift gears. We're going to come back to this issue. Mr. Sallah. We can't hear you though. Can we, are you hearing Sarian?
No, I cannot hear him.
Mr. Sallah, we cannot hear you. We can't hear.
You cannot hear me, and
oh, now we
now
can.
We can hear.
You can. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you
now
very
we
much.
can. Now we can.
Okay.
Sallah,
Okay.
we were just engaged in some tangled platform a little bit, but
Yes.
most of the people were all saying, "Man, Kanda Halifa Dinyo." We want to hear from Mr. Sallah.
Okay. Thank you.
But welcome
now
again.
Now you can hear from me. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, it's been a while though, Mr. Sallah.
A long time.
Definitely.
Yes.
Sallah.
Sometimes it is necessary.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's good to be a listener.
It's good to miss a little bit, yes. Absolutely. I'm kind of nurturing sovereign citizens. You know, and I'm sure most of our viewers that are out there, they should grab a copy of this book. There's a lot in it. And I'm sure we're gonna talk a little bit about it tonight, and we're gonna also talk about the Constitution, Mr. Sallah.
Okay.
But as always, on this platform, we always like to ask complex questions and expect someone to give us a very summarized, short answers. And sometimes that's not really fair. And we live in a world of TikTok. Most of our viewers, all they want to do is see something for 30 seconds. You go more than that.
Exactly. That's okay. That's okay.
So I'm here with my my co-panelist, Sariang. I'm gonna let you at least greet Mr. Sallah.
Yes. Mr. Sallah, thank you very much for coming on the show, and we really appreciate you coming in here and share some of your perspectives in different issues regarding Gambia, and we're really excited to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be around. Thank you.
Mr. Sallah, I'm going to start with your book. You talk about nurturing sovereign citizens. How does our current political climate or our current Gambia, where we are, the state of affairs, I think there is an echo. How does the current political climate help with this whole idea of nurturing sovereign citizens?
Well, the book was written precisely because of the absence of that. We grew up not knowing who we are. Who taught us what it meant to be a citizen? And how many people can claim that up to university level that they did understand what it meant to be a citizen of a country? So we grew up at a time when we did not even know how we became the country we became. And it is absolutely essential for people to understand many developments that are mentioned in the book. Precisely when we look at the 1965 referendum, our elders did go to vote more on partisan basis and personality politics rather than the substance of nationhood. That is what was to be decided at that time. Whether we will continue to be a constitutional monarchy under the control of Her Majesty, who under the 1965 Constitution was the executive, or to become a republic. if such a fundamental question was not properly put to a point that the referendum failed, then of course we did not have sovereign citizens who were properly nurtured. We did become a republic, supposedly also with a sovereign people, but how many of us knew what was in the 1970 Constitution? How many of us, even those who were seen to be the political leaders, how many of them did interrogate the very Constitution that should determine how they were to govern a country? So in short, the absence of that is precisely why the book is written, for us to see that as owners of the Gambia and owners of power, it was essential to know where our power starts and where it ends, and where those who govern get their powers, and how they should utilize those powers, and where those powers start and where they end. So in a sovereign republic, we must talk about powers, because sovereignty is about power. And when it says that the Gambia is a sovereign republic, it means that the Gambia is independent from all other countries, and no authority should exercise sovereignty over the country. And in that regard, we should not owe any obedience, adherence, or any form of subjugation to another power. So that is the essence. And as sovereign citizens, also the power of the republic resides in us. So it's as simple as that, that because it resides in us, no authority should exist without us, and no authority should be exercised without promoting our liberty and prosperity. That was missing, that is still missing. So we need to nurture it, meaning we need to conduct more education, citizenship education, to enable the people in our school system, in our vocational institutions, in our community organizations. We everywhere we need to take part in building that citizenry. And by doing so, then we eradicate the basis for division on the basis of ethno-linguistic groups, on the basis of caste, on the basis of religious differences, on regional basis. So essentially, we create the complete citizen who signs that contract with nation and people. And you can say Gambian people, and you should have that love for your people and love for country. That is the essence of the book.
So, Mr. Sallah, in 2016, one would say that we exercise as citizens that sovereignty. That is why we were able. Yeah, there's an echo. I don't know who's helping you with the. There is definitely an echo. That we were. Yeah, the connection is not. It's not very good. We're not very good listening. The same. Yeah. So what?
Is it okay now?
So I was. Okay.
If you need, there's no other audio device in here. So
Oh, really?
I don't know whether.
Marian, is it me or are you hearing the same thing?
Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing.
The same echo, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll just go with it. So, Mr. Sallah,
Is it okay now?
Yes, it's good now.
Yeah, it's good now. In 2016, we came together as Gambians and exercised the very sovereignty that you're talking about, and we were able to send a dictator packing after 20 years. I mean, that says a lot about us citizens. How do you explain that in terms of this us still having problems by exercising our sovereignty?
But because each individual is an embodiment of that sovereignty, and we are different in mindset, in some instances we can come together. In some instances, we really become divided. And I believe 2016 was an opportune moment. The country was heading towards real chaos. If people can reflect back, one could see that around September, October, the situation was very tense. You would remember that Honorable Dabo was incarcerated, and you can remember the words on TV, radio, ethno-linguistic diatribes were all over the air. And you could see a sense of dejection, a sense of desperation in people. And quite a number of people felt that really Gambia was going the way of confrontation and bloodshed. So looking at that situation, one would say that something needed to be done that will give people hope. We rely on facts as evidence to be able to determine whether what was done did address the demands and urgencies of the situation. With a situation like that, with was in fact refusing to monitor the presidential election by virtue of the fact that they felt it was a done deal, that there was not going to be any free and fair election. So it was not worth for ECOWAS to monitor it. The international community in general had given up. They felt that the elections were a foregone conclusion. So essentially, the whole mindset of people did not lean towards any form of change. One would say that to address that desperation is what led to at least an attempt to bring people together for that change. Now, to bring people together is not easy. What was done was to employ tactics that appeared to be the reasonable thing to do at the moment. And that was to invite the presidential candidates who are already campaigning to come to a forum for discussion and dialogue to see whether it is possible to select one among the numbers to be a flag bearer. That is how the process emerged. And of course, we know the conclusion. So essentially, it was a project that no one could oppose. Otherwise, one would be marginalized. And sometimes situations do create such opportune moments where if the right thing is done at the right time, you strike the right chord and people rise up together to the occasion to effect the change that actually happened in 2016. But because you had people with different mindsets, different objectives, being bound by the demands of the situation, then when they accomplish their goal, of course, they recede to their former selves and continue their former projects. So that is essentially what had happened. And my thinking would not be the thinking of many others. So, and talk about rights and wrongs in a situation where we are all sovereign and everybody is entitled to an opinion and thinking. So what we can say as a people is that we achieved one fundamental goal, that is to convince all that power indeed does emanate from the people, because we were able to remove the person who held power with tremendous might, tremendous authority, and replace him with another who was elected by us. So that particular development, which has never happened in Gambian history until then, could be said to have been the achievement we had.
Okay.
The rest is, the rest is history.
Okay. Thank you, cameraman, for adjusting the camera. I think, Brother Sallah.
Thank you, Honorable Sallah, for coming up on the show. We really appreciate you. My first question to you is, how do you see a government, and more importantly, a president? Why do we elect a president for our republic every 5 years? And what is his roles and responsibilities?
That is precisely the citizenship education that should have been offered to all of us. Then maybe we'll be more determined to really direct and control our own might as sovereign citizens, because the powerhouse is in us and we should exercise direction and control over it. Republics are established to render services to the people. And that is why Section 26 of the Constitution says that everybody has the right to elect and be elected, but also a right to public services. Because the Republic is a community of sovereign citizens. There must be education, there must be health, there must be agriculture. All aspects of life must be covered. The Republic must ensure that we eat, we drink, we also live in houses and enjoy social life as a whole. That is our theater. And the president of a republic is considered the executive in our constitution. Of course, in more refined constitutions, one will move to the cabinet, because the president, yes, is elected by people as a whole, but ultimately, a president cannot govern alone. So it's the cabinet that actually governs on the principle of collective responsibility. That cabinet should be properly constituted. That is why you look at the Constitution, it's saying people who have experience and who have the qualification to carry out responsibilities should be entrusted with those responsibilities, to exercise direction and control over ministries. And under them, you'll have the permanent secretaries technically prepared to be able to assist them, to be able to exercise their work. The president then becomes the custodian of the policies of a nation, and also the person who executes the mandate to provide the services that we need, and work with a team competent enough to deliver the services the nation needs. Because they handle such an immense responsibility of controlling, managing resources, and implementing projects and proposals, and going to the level of not only the nation but internationally. They engage in a relation between other countries. Then something else is needed so that their powers will not be absolute. And that is why the cabinet as a whole are subject to oversight by another body, and that is the National Assembly. We see then the relation, that there must be a relation between a president who executes and a National Assembly that serves as oversight. Not only that, all of them must be bound by something, and that something must be the law. Therefore, you must have a constitution and you must have a law that governs how they administer the state. And then the principle of the rule of law comes, that when they administer the state, they must do so on the basis of law. For example, it is emphasized that the president under Section 78 of the Constitution cannot conclude international agreements, but can enter into international agreements, meaning the president can go and sign an international agreement, but must bring that international agreement to the National Assembly for ratification before it becomes actionable under our Constitution. So you can see then the separation of powers being given. Not only that, the Constitution says that all taxes must be based on the law. And once money is paid, it must be put in the sovereign, in the consolidated fund of the country at the central bank. This consolidated fund cannot be touched until another law says, well, take this money and put it in this place or that place. So here then, the executive has limited powers. It cannot force people to pay taxes that are not provided by law. It cannot also use that money unless authorized by law. Then it gives the Auditor General separate powers under Section 160 of the Constitution, that this Auditor General can audit all the accounts. And in fact, given further powers that wherever the Auditor General audits and discovers that anything is missing that is fraudulent, immediately that Auditor General can act directly by reaching out to the Inspector General of Police for investigation. So the state is organized in such a way that if the balances and checks work as they should, then it means you will have a very accountable and transparent administration that serves the interests of the people. So essentially then, the president of a republic is paid, taken care of, to act according to the dictates of the Constitution in order to be able to provide the services that the people need. That is the role of a president.
Thank you, Mr. Sallah. So, with all that in mind, obviously, since we attained independence, before you came on the program, we were discussing, we faced the same issues. We had a change of government, but most of the basic amenities for our citizens are unattainable. They are rich and we have same issues. And when I reflect on that, leadership becomes an essential issue. And it's the main ingredient of who we are and how we want to transform our country. What do you think that for 59 years, we still face the same issues, even though you've laid out the responsibilities ingrained in the Constitution, the separation of powers, but we are still not be able to strike that balance? What is the issue?
Yes, it appears that the people who matter have not been given the education necessary to lead. It is really the people who should lead, meaning that it is the people who vote to put leaders in office. So those people must be conscious of what they are doing. Our problem, not only in the Gambia, generally in Africa, is that we became independent, but we really did not build countries owned by the people. We really did not build republics. And we are still vegetating. You can see the coup d'etat still taking place, and some people will even clap that the coup d'etat is taking place somewhere. So this is where we are. And we need a transition. Just as we were calling for a transition in 2016, we need a transition in mindset, and a determined one, where you, me, and all of us must begin that conversation, where, irrespective of party affiliation, we have a country that must have a state, that must have a government, and that has a people. And we must make that to be real, for us to know that this is our country. Here, even our national borders are not yet fully defined. All these years for Senegal and Gambia to sit, go back to 10 August 1889 and say, well, this is how the British and the French met and demarcated. Whatever they have not demarcated, at least to agree on something permanent and say, this constitute our borders. That has not been done. So when you talk about territorial integrity, how do you determine it? How do you define it? So those basic elements should have happened, where we know that this is our country, our territorial waters constitute this. This is what should be done there. This is how it should be protected. Imagine the number of vessels who just come and ply our waters and disappear. Who is really safeguarding the territories? So in short, we are yet to take full ownership of the country that we should own. So I agree with you that we have not been able to build the type of governance environment that is necessary since we say we became independent. What is the problem? The problem is that we can move just up to a given level. And that level is to ensure that governments come to power through elections, and that political parties are free to be formed to seek the mandate of the people. That is what is seen to be democracy. But I believe the next level of citizenship education at the early childhood level, all the way to the universities and other domains of society, our communities, for us to be well educated, to know our power as citizens. And I believe once we know it, then we will exercise those powers, we'll enforce those powers more responsibly, and therefore we will attain the development that we seek. That is really the challenge.
Thank you. Musa, go ahead.
Mr. Sallah, back in 2016, there was a lot of expectations when the parties came together and change happened. There was a change of government. But something else did happen. There was a betrayal. We were all there. This is not ancient history. And the betrayal was clear. We had an agreement and there was a memorandum of understanding. Everything was stipulated to the key. The guardrails, how the candidate will run on an independent ticket, everything was signed. With the help of God, Jammeh was sent packing. Some of your supporters, Mr. Sallah, they said this was an opportune moment for DOI and what DOI stood for. In 2021, you run as a presidential candidate. You were well aware of this betrayal. But people said that DOI and Mr. Sallah did not exploit, not necessarily exploit, but go to the Gambian people and said, this is what we agreed upon. And this is what the betrayal was. And the people that betrayed cannot be trusted. Instead, Doi and Mr. Sallah decided that they are just going to focus on their programs. In a country where people are immersed in poverty, in a country where people are ethnic sensitivities, in a country where people are low-income voters, people are saying Mr. Sallah did not employ the strategy that would have made it competitive. Instead, Mr. Sallah just focused on their programs, and that did not work. Looking back, do you think that's a fundamental mistake, Mr. Sallah, that you failed, I mean, respectfully, to say that these people betrayed what we agreed upon? Or are we missing something, Mr. Sallah?
Well, it's an opinion which we need to interrogate. You see, people should go back to September, October, and then address the issue. Should what happened to have been left like that, not to happen? Or were we right to bring people together to effect the change? That is really the fundamental question. You see, change must have strategic objectives and must have tactics. The situation that existed would have led to more suffering, more frustration, and even violence of some sort if the change did not occur at the right time. So the change was a remedy to conflict. And for that purpose, we've achieved our aim. But the aim was more than just to remedy a conflict. The aim was to give Gambia a new start.
Mm-hmm.
But to give Gambia a new start required that you control power. What we had was a gentle person's agreement, relying on all of us remaining loyal to our common aspirations. Then we would have delivered. But if we have common aspirations and then attain power, and others feel that they would not go on with those aspirations, all it reveals is that we were different from the very beginning, and coming together did not unite us. It only enabled us to cross the bridge and ensure that we achieve at least that immediate aim of changing a government. The next task was how to manage that change so that it will have the effect of building a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, clearly, we must understand the state and how it works. That even though you may agree to put somebody in office, once the person is in office, the person governs according to the Constitution. What was before the person who was elected was to choose to implement the coalition mandate, meaning then that he would have accepted the 3-year term,
Mm-hmm.
would resign under Section 65 of the Constitution, to allow room for an election to take place, carry out constitutional reform
Mm-hmm.
as quickly as possible. And part of the constitutional reform was to include in Section 65 of the Constitution that where the office of president becomes vacant, within 90 days, there'll be election to the office of president. So all the things could have been put in constitutions and laws to be able to implement what we agreed upon. But we did not reach that far because the person who actually became president had interests in serving as an executive president under the mandate given by the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, what do you do next? That is the fundamental question. So what we did was to inform the people that what you have is a regime change and that we have not succeeded in changing a system. And that's the reality. Since it is the people who decide, well, it was left to the people to know that every 5 years we'll have an election. And when we have the election, what do you do again? To make your campaign to show that is the betrayal by these people? Well, I'm not sure whether that, I remember going to train some women before the local government elections, the regional council elections. And then one of the trainers came to me and really seemed to be very apologetic and said, really, you're in my heart, but I didn't vote for you in the presidential election because I did not want this other group of people to win. You know, people say it openly. You know, so, and how many thousands of people decided to go and vote based on how they saw the priorities of politics. So in that instance, I don't see what anybody could have done by carrying out a campaign which, you know, ultimately will result in the same decisions being made, and only is the subject matter of the campaign that will be different. I honestly believe I would have failed terribly if I took that angle of campaign, because it's like you are a loser, you know, they have betrayed you, so you are angry. You know,
I really wanna push back. I really wanna push back on that. I really do wanna.
Yeah, allow me. I'm saying the campaign of telling people that they have not got the change they wanted, that the change they should pursue is this type of change, is the beginning of another era, because a coalition period had gone. That is, now we were dealing with post-coalition. So what should be the post-coalition agenda is what was being laid in 2020. And I must say why that is successful, because after everything, it is the same people who come back and say, wow, really what you were telling us, we are seeing with our very eyes. Really. So I believe politics is not just simply trying to look at the negative side of things, but is also looking at the positive side of things. I really don't feel betrayed. For me, I feel that we have achieved what no political party had ever achieved, and it is the Gambian people who must stop mystifying the results of elections, because the reality is no single political party has ever changed the Gambia through the ballot box. Even though they talk about big political parties, but no single opposition party had ever done that. But we brought about a coalition and effect that change. So therefore, that is a lesson to the Gambian people that yes, they are capable of effecting change. Now, for me, the question is, what type of change? And that is what we must interrogate. What type of change do we want? And how can we bring it? So the situation that is brought after 2021 is not an act of feeling betrayed, but rather differentiation between the different political forces in the country, enabling the people to be able to rethink politics. And I believe that now we have an opportunity to rethink politics.
So now, I really want to come back to this. I really want to push back a little bit. And when I said betrayed, what they betrayed was the aspiration of the people, because this was a collective effort. And everybody understood that we have different political parties and different directions. We are coming together to bring about change. And there were ways that we were supposed to do it. So all I'm saying is, looking back, because you played a huge role. Nobody doubts that. We all witnessed the impasse. When Halifa speaks, people listen. There was absolutely no doubt about that, with authority and credibility. Now we are looking at 2021 elections. Clearly, Mr. Sallah, there was a betrayal of not you personally, but betrayal of the process itself. And I am saying, and some of your supporters are saying, you did not put a lot of effort on telling people that, look, this is what we agreed upon. And the frustrating thing was, let's say, for instance, even the NPP was saying that, for instance, well, you know, I mean, Doi and Halifa Sallah, these are nice people. I mean, just basically to reinforce, don't vote for the other guy, at least vote for us. Halifa is nice, but you guys can vote for us, because if we vote for Halifa, Halifa would lose. I mean, these people were playing politics to win. And I'm just saying, looking back, most people think the strategy that you employ did not work.
Whose strategy worked?
I'm sorry?
I say, whose strategy worked?
The Barrow strategy worked, the NPP strategy worked.
Well, that's
because
what you
ultimately,
and every Gambian was here when we educated people that we had a 3-year term program. All Gambians knew that. And those same Gambians are the one who will come and vote for Barrow in 2021. So if you believe that those people were so unintelligent that they did not vote their own volition, then you'll be making a sad mistake. In fact, you will be helping the ruling party at this moment, because what is important is to understand the level of the Gambian people and the political landscape at that time. All these people who voted based on their own volition. And nobody should really give an excuse for them. Otherwise, they will begin to continue to fool themselves. We must hold them accountable for the actions. You know, we must hold leaders accountable, but we must also hold people accountable. The people must be accountable for the actions that they take. And if we want the Gambian people to become enlightened, we should stop giving excuses for them. We should frankly tell them, you chose this way, and that is the consequence of your action. That is the long and short of it. We must see development to be a process. 2016 was a process, completed in 2021. But that completion was still vague in the minds of many people. They were still looking at personalities. They were still looking at elections to be very superficial. But it is now that the Gambian people are beginning to realize that elections are not ordinary matters. Elections are life and death issues. And now is the time that we should really help the Gambian people to understand the road to their economic emancipation. How do you get rid of their poverty? That becomes a fundamental question. How can we enlarge liberty? That is now a fundamental question. So what is important is to draw the lessons now, and we are drawing the lessons. This is the time to draw the lessons. And I am fully confident that the lessons are very positive, because even in the heart, you see, you've mentioned something where Barrow people say, nice, you know, for Doi, that has always been its politics. You know, everybody from PPP all the way, I remember Sam Sar telling me, the late our colleague, you know, who was, okay.
Dr. Ture?
No, late, it's a late, our late colleague in UDP. Yes, he was with Hassan Musa Kamara. So, Femi Peters meeting Sam and telling him, we are just from Jawara, him and Hassan Musa at that time. I said, we are just from Jawara. And what Jawara told us is that, I hate to narrate this now because the man is no longer alive, but he told some, what Jawara told us is that you people, you are not like Doye. You do not do your homework. At least Doye was it say all these things. Well, this is Jawara saying this to GPP, the leader. So we have not been people who are seen, just to be saying things for its sake, for their sake. I believe that people have always seen us as people of substance, regardless of party affiliation, and therefore that integrity should be sustained. And the tactics that you've mentioned worked because that was the situation. That is where the minds of the people were, and that's how they voted.
Yeah, Sarian.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Sallah. I wanted to follow up on the 3-year agreement and the president wanting to rule as an executive, which is 5 years. And there's a lot of conversations around this, who betrays who, and looking at the different dynamics, and again, zooming into the law. When those 3-year draft was done, I know it was a gentleman agreement, but was there any thinking, and realistically, coming out of that dictatorship and how the security apparatus was and the security challenges and everything, was it feasible, say, if the president resigned within 3 years, for Gambians to mobilize registration, ensuring there is fair and integrity in our election process, to have a new election? Was that realistic in your view, and what are some of the plans to implement those?
Well, just imagine that we started the coalition on the 30th of October is when we met to select the flag bearer. 30th October. For 2nd December, how many months? 1 month, 2 days, and we changed the country. So if we can do that, and we selected somebody who was a caretaker, is a flag bearer. So we combine our collective strength to put the person in office and say, be there so that we can build a new foundation for the Gambia, a level ground for multi-party contest. That was the plan, a realistic plan. Within 3 years, even within a year, we could have reformed the Constitution, reformed the institutions, conduct general civic education and citizenship education. Yes, we could. In fact, for me, when I stood, I offered 2 years. I contested. I didn't select one. I contested. But because of not wanting to be seen, to be power hungry, which one would have been by saying, well, election, this, you've heard all the coalition, what they said about that election, you could have easily dismissed it. And of course, we would have had the same person presiding over the affairs of the country. But essentially, what was being done was to effect a change that will give Gambia a new start. That was the vision. That was my vision anyway. I don't know about the rest. Is to give Gambia a new start. And it was realistic to implement that. Why wouldn't it be realistic? At that time, if you gave me 2 years, I will implement it. And I can say it now because, it does not matter anymore. So in that reality, one must dwell on everything, every element was looked at. Not only that, we had prepared a draft memorandum, which would have shown that coalition governance environment leading to the change that we were talking about. But all of that was scrapped. Why? Because it was not only one person who wanted to be an executive president, but there were many forces that strengthened that person to hold on to that view. So if everybody had the same view, and it is only that single person who had the view of continuity, of course you can put pressure, and the person will know that I am created by this coalition, therefore I can go against that coalition. But I don't want to go into that. What is obvious to everybody, I don't know why we are debating on it. We know exactly what happened. Those are matters that are not necessary to dwell on. People took their own decisions, for their own reasons. And that's exactly what happened. The coalition disappeared as soon as that president saw that he was an executive president who should serve not only even 5 years, but as many years as the people will give him. So that is the reality that we must confront. But what we did was very realistic, and if we had carried it, Gambia would have been the darling of the world. Gambia would have been an example, because at that material time of the change, the whole world was inspired because they knew the force we removed. That's why many times people are talking about Senegal, this happened. It's like, what happened in Senegal? These people were removed from prison. They went and participated in election and won. In our situation, people were kept in prison who were leaders of political parties, major political parties, kept there in prison. We won an election. The person refused to go. We made sure that the person went in peace. And those people who were in prison removed, not by him, but by us. So what example can people learn from Senegal? Whatever they have done there, we have done much more on a more difficult circumstances, more dangerous circumstances.
Correct.
We kept the country together. ECOWAS was there with its weapons, ready to come in. We managed them. Not everybody in ECOWAS agreed with that. Some wanted to come in in another manner. So we were controlling two forces. Control Jammeh, control forces in ECOWAS who wanted to come in a different way. So the situation was fully managed. So in that sense, really, Gambia was a lesson for the world, because what happened here rarely happened anywhere else.
Thank you, Honorable Sallah. Honorable Sallah, I know you said we should not dwell on the past, but
no, we can.
My belief is, we had a lot of challenges, and we, of course, had some pitfalls. And out of those challenges and pitfalls, I think we need to draw lessons learned and apply that in the future. And I think that is very, very critical. You talk about, civil education, but what we've seen time over time, despite we had these basic amenities that are lacking, basic electricity, having a decent healthcare structure, we lacked it still. But even though everyone knew that, because when they go to those hospitals, they don't get the care they need. But we continue to vote the other way. And I think it's incumbent to draw lessons and say, what are some of the things that we could do differently? And what are some of the things that we could learn in terms of I like the way you put out how the president's supposed to be elected, but we're not doing that. And some of those things, I think it's reflective of on the type of leadership and different political parties and dynamics. Now, how do we, from your vantage point or lessons drawn, how do you see a way path forward in terms of civil engagement, talking about issues rather than personalities, to ensure that we have a population that is engaged and aware and knew that the power lies in their hands, not the elected officials?
As I have rightly said, we should not live in the past, but I'm not saying that we should not learn from the past. And you are clearly right by drawing that parallel, that we must learn from the past to be able to build the future. But let me be very clear. If you listen to President Barrow, especially in China, he's saying that the role of the government is simply to create a space, but it is the private sector that will actually build Gambia. You look at foreign direct investment in the Gambia, 2023, the minister is saying it's about $37 million. But the remittances is over $737 million. So the remittances in a year compared to 37 million of foreign direct investment, where is the private sector investing? What are we doing with those remittances that are coming into the country? Where is it going in the productive base? If we were going to banking system now, you will discover that annually, like last year, the exchange, foreign exchange, the currency sales is 1.1 billion. For the sales, 1 billion. 1.1 billion for the buying, 1 billion for the sales. So you can see that about almost 2.1 billion is being exchanged. And we are talking about dollars. We are not talking about dollars. Dollars is being exchanged in foreign currency in our banking system. Where is that money going? So a country will need resources to be built. And that is why you have to have policy initiative, which should be our discussion now. What policies do we need? You talk about the health sector there. You look at the Global Fund, $17 million for malaria. And on, $23 million for HIV. So you find out all these contributions. And you must look at our health system. How do you organize it? So what we really need is to sit down and interrogate, what do we need to develop our country? We have put a framework. Fundamentally, even the way we conduct our budgetary system will never lead to the development of our country. I repeatedly tell people, come to my home and get out of my home and you see what is in the street there. Hundreds of women, if not thousands. No market, that's where they are selling. 4 o'clock in the morning, that's where they come to assemble. Some even come all the way from Sanja with their tomatoes. From Budfu, from everywhere, from the combos. So essentially, what that is a microcosm of the failure of what is happening in terms of economics. Failure of the councils and failure of central government. None of them is actually performing. Why? Because they don't know how to run those institutions. We have said from the very beginning, we cannot take the colonial direction of managing a country because they created urban-rural dichotomy and therefore create the basis for urban-rural drift and eventually country to diaspora drift because we are not building the productive base. You will go to Agric and talk to the minister. Today, they will tell you, they will agree that there is over 550,000 hectares of land available for cultivation. But if you ask them, how much are we contributing in terms of cultivating in terms of rice, when we are almost 300,000 demand, how much are we? 47,000 tons. During Jammeh's time, 57,000 tons. You know, when we have the land, you go to Nari, they will tell you, yes, a particular hectare can produce 5 tons. How many hectares do you need? 60,000, and then you produce 300,000. So what is the problem? Why, since Jawara's time, we are unable to do that? Why are we unable to feed ourselves? You can see the cooperative, what happened with the Macaulay Commission during the First Republic. With almost, I think, 40-something butus was left in their accounts. You come Second Republic, yes, food self-sufficiency in before 2016. How did it happen? 57,000 tons. So essentially, there is something fundamentally wrong with the system. And this is what intellectuals must begin to interrogate and agree upon. If we agree on developmental principles, and I'll come back to the budgeting, you see, what we need is applying the law of balance and proportionate development of society. No society can develop without applying that. That in budgeting, we need to consider from the village development committee, what are their priorities all the way to the ward, all the way to the region, the municipalities, and that should be taken on board. And coming to the central government, you know exactly what the needs of the villages are. And therefore, in the allocation of resources that belong to all of us, it goes in that direction. That is how you eradicate that rural-urban drift and create a basis for both rural and urban development. These are requirements. They are scientific requirements of how you build a society. They have never been applied. You look at the central bank at this moment, we are in the hands of the IMF. Why? Because of balance of payment deficits. You are exporting less than you are importing in terms of value. And that's a continuous basis. So how will you have the foreign exchange? How do you have your reserves outside to be able to facilitate the importation of goods? So you will not have it. Always in deficit. So therefore, you have to rely on the IMF for balance of payment support. But today, if you are exporting more than you are importing, of course, we will no longer be in the hands of the IMF for conditionality, because we will have enough foreign reserve to be able to handle our own affairs. So in short, we need to sit down and talk about developmental issues, because we have the resources. Just look at Batokunku Sanyang Kato. How many years they were mining and it was disappearing, and nobody during the past regime. Now, what is coming out of there? How is it benefiting the Gambia? Nil. You will not see much. So essentially, this is what we are saying. Since Gambia came into being, no prospecting has been effectively done to know exactly what we have. They will tell you, go to Tumana, they found diamond there, go to this. So all sorts of speculations. But no serious government has ever undertaken to know the type of minerals that we have in the Gambia. No serious government had ever undertaken food self-sufficiency issue. And how do you undertake it? Well, of course, the system must be different. The farmer wants to produce, but does not have the farming implements, does not have the seed, does not have the fertilizer. So how do you make that available? This is the debate. If you make that available,
how do we make it available, Mr. Sallah? And we're just going to hold on to that question. We're going to explore, because come 2026, we will have an opportunity, because clearly the current system is not working. But we have some people that buy ads, and they're the ones that kept us going. So let's play the ads, Mr. Sallah. Drink a little bit of water. Again, thank you for being on this program.
Believe the hype, because it's that good. A true kitchen essential. Get Candy Spice products to impress your family and friends with great food, creating flavorful memories. We have pepper sauce, marinades, gourmet spices, barbecue sauces, fruit butter, African snacks, and much more. Every order gets a gift. Yes, you heard that right. Every order gets a gift. Candy Spice, it's handcrafted and all natural. We have options, you choose. Order at www.candyspice.com.
While you have certainly heard about coronavirus, commonly called COVID, you might not know these important facts and ways to protect your family from the illness it can bring. COVID can be very contagious through air, touch, or sharing food. It has been studied at length, and we can share with you what we know so far. Who are we? We are New World International, a non-profit organization located in Washington State, and our mission is to educate people about coronavirus. The coronavirus can cause serious illness and, yes, even death if not treated right away. The symptoms are similar to the common flu: fever, cough, sore throat, and shortness of breath. Many people experience these symptoms and wait too long to seek medical attention. That can be a life-threatening mistake. Certainly, keeping a safe distance from others that appear to have flu symptoms is advisable. It's always better to be safe than sorry. If you develop these symptoms, there won't be any way for you to know that it's just a common flu unless you have a test done. It's best to seek out a doctor, nurse, health worker, or health facility to get advice and treatment if needed. If you are a student, report the conditions to your teacher right away. By all means, stay home if you are sick. Always cover your mouth and nose if you sneeze, and wash up afterward. The contagion spreads with the moisture droplets. As you have heard, there is a vaccine available for coronavirus. Seriously consider receiving a vaccine before you become ill. And above all, consult with your doctor when you do not feel well. For more information, please visit us online at newworldinternational.org.
Yeah, Brother Sarian, interesting conversation. As always. Mr. Sallah, thank you. Sarian, you want to continue? Or?
Oh, well, you can go ahead. I asked my two questions.
I'm just suggesting, because I'll be going back, and we can still extend conversations as we go. I think you're engaged in an exploratory work and engaging everybody, and that is useful. This is what we need at the moment. We need to expand the conversation, and I believe that from the conversation we'll build up that community of critical thinkers who will be able to carry things forward. Because the more we just attack and betrayal there and there, then the misunderstanding will just continue, and people will get trapped in that web. And as a result, some, even though they may want change, because they don't like Halifa Sallah, they will not really want to support that change. So it's because you've attacked my man there. So I think we must go beyond that and free the Gambian people so that they know that they are not owned by any political leader or party, but that as sovereign citizens, we either die suffering or die, free. So and it is really more noble to die free, and we don't even have to die. We live free if we work together to build that country. And what had happened in 2016 has really created the bedrock for people's change by their consent. That is more durable, more sustainable, more respectful. And Gambians have already started that, and I believe we should be able to sustain that.
No doubt, Mr. Sallah. No doubt, Mr. Sallah, we are at a better place. But there is one issue, and I'm sure most of the people that tune in has something to do with the draft constitution. There is one thing, one fundamental thing that people expected that 2016 will bring, that we will have a new law of the land, and that is the constitution. We've all followed what was the 2020 draft. People label it People's Constitution. We all know what happened. Politics pretty much killed it, if you want to call it that. Now here again, we are looking at a constitution that people labeled the Barrow Constitution, with changes, things like that. Where do you stand on this debate itself? Because most people are saying this is dead on arrival. Most likely we're going to go into 2026 still under the 1997 Constitution. Is there a way out of this quagmire, Mr. Sallah?
Yes, there is a way, and the way is already laid. It's very clear. It's laid by our understanding of the standing orders, our understanding of the Constitution, that is the living constitution of the land. What we must bear in mind is a constitution is not an instrument of the executive. It is an instrument of the people, and we must refuse for others to take ownership of constitution building. The people must build the constitution because ultimately they alone can make the constitution. Finally, the people are the National Assembly members who agree to a referendum and then agree to a draft constitution for it to become law. So people are lawmakers, and we must see ourselves as that. So what law do we want to make? That is the question. You've rightly said it. In 2016, we agreed that the 1997 Constitution had many flaws that needed to be amended. How? Were we going to promulgate a totally new constitution, or were we going to amend the portions as required by its own provision, Section 226? That debate did come at the level of the National Assembly. At that material time, my thinking was different from the rest because I still had the 3-year mandate in my head that if we were to serve this 3-year mandate, then it was faster to amend the portions of the Constitution that we wanted amended, because we did not overthrow the 1997 Constitution as Jammeh did the 1970 Constitution. Then you can bring a commission to prepare a whole draft, go to a referendum with speed, and then pass it, and then you have a new law. But this constitution was a living constitution when we came into office as a coalition. What it says on the Section 226 that there are entrenched clauses which cannot be changed without a referendum. There are non-entrenched clauses which can be changed without a referendum, and that has been done with the 65 years. Both requires procedure, and the procedure is what matters. The procedure is that you publish it 3 months, second publication no less than 10 days, and then you take it to the National Assembly, first reading, just to read its citation, and then move to the second reading, where you discuss only the principles, not the content. That's where our National Assembly members got wrong. And I was in National Assembly, we should have discussed the principles, why we needed a new constitution, because it's required by Section 101 of the Constitution. There must be a memorandum indicating the objects, the reasons, the principles for bringing the bill to the National Assembly. So you discuss that. And that's a very simple matter. All of us can easily agree on that, because you must have something that you want changed in that particular constitution and why it should be changed. Now, it requires 3/4 majority to pass that phase, and that's where it failed. Looking at it, and if everybody take a second look, you will see that it was totally unnecessary for that bill to fail in the second reading, because the next stage is what you call the committee stage in the National Assembly. The committee stage simply requires that all subject matter specialists in dealing with constitutional matters could be invited. The religious leaders, civic organizations, anybody who matter, who had interest, could be invited to do a critique of the Constitution. I've written a book on this issue, in constitution building challenges. Well, that would be in the hands of the National Assembly. Others may write all the things, it will be in the hands of the National Assembly members. So with that, the National Assembly members will prepare their report, including any recommendation that they may make for amending whatever portions of the Constitution brought before them. Now, if during our time, the government had really sought a proper advice, knew what it was doing, then there was no need to do anything and collaborate with anyone to defeat the bill at the second reading, because they too have every mandate to come to at the committee stage and indicate what they really felt they were dissatisfied with.
Definitely.
So that would have been considered. At least at the third reading, you may defeat it, but at least we would have done everything that was possible to reach some form of compromise and amendments before it goes to the consideration stage, where we actually make the law itself, where everything we agree will stand part of the bill to go to the approval stage and to a referendum. So in short, we felt during the first attempt by the CRC, and I made an attempt to really bring it back. In what way? Not because we all supported all the provisions of the Constitution. I was telling our members today that if you look at the 2020 draft, just as an example, when it comes to the tenure of office, the 2 terms limit, in the 2020 draft, it says that there should be 2 terms. Now, in qualifying the 2 terms, whether the first term of the president will serve as the first term, when the president comes into office, after the Constitution comes into force, whether that will serve as the first term of the president, they qualified that in the transitional and consequential provision by indicating that the first term, that once the Constitution comes into force, then the person sitting as president will be the first president of the Third Republic. So whether he will sit for 2 months, 1 year, so whoever is there, at least that serves as your first term. And then what about the second term? What they put, I know it's a mistake. I can read their mind. I'm sure what they wanted to put is that, well, the person can serve only 1 more term. But what they said is that the person can contest elections only 1 more time. So, you can contest an election and fail.
Lose, yeah.
And then you must contest again. And so you can contest election as many times as possible, as long as that will be your second term. So therefore, that's an error. Of course, if we had gone to the committee stage, those are the things that we would have pointed out. And there are many things that one would disagree with. I'll give another example, is this civil servants' participation in politics. If the election decree 130, section 130 stated that if you are a public servant or employed by any agency, if you are a candidate, you will have leave, paid leave. Up to 5 days after the election, you return to your job. That's a decree, Decree 78, 1996. But then, when the Constitution came in the 1997 Constitution, you will see that Section 170 is saying you have to have 1 year leave without pay. Obviously, it shows that a decree is even more progressive than the Republican Constitution. I'm against that, and I would want that to be changed. But you see that the 2020 draft, and I would have contended that at the national, the 2020 draft of the CRC indicated that, well, you will go for 6 months leave without pay. Of course, I would not support that. And the same thing with the cabinet draft. It is also saying 6 months without pay, but its provision is ambiguous, is absurd, because it says that without pay, but then at the bottom it comes up with another clause and saying if you fail to win, then you will return to your job immediately. So those are contradictory terms. One language is this 6 months without pay leave to be able to stand, and then another is saying you will return to your job. So it means that a constitution that is coming as draft will have so many buts that the National Assembly members are supposed to treat at the considerations, at first at the committee stage, and then at the consideration stage, those are the amendments they will recommend. And I've clearly stated that in the book so that all the procedures will be understood. And if they are understood, the question is, should we entertain that scrutiny before the third reading and see whether consensus could be built, or do we throw it out at the second reading? So that is left to us. Those are the questions before us. But there are many things in these constitutions that we need to corroborate and see what is best for the nation.
So your advice is, as far as the 2024 draft that is gazetted, for people to allow it to go through the process?
I'm not giving any advice. I'm simply saying I know what you mean, but the reason why I'm not giving advice, I'm just enlightening. Let people make their decision this time. Well, let me just explain. Let me just explain. Let me just push back a little bit. You see, in 1996, just allow me to say this. When I say this, you can go ahead. Okay.
There are people, and it's just reality. When Mr. Sallah speaks, even going all the way back to the impasse, there's a reason why there is always public support. So what we are saying is positions and leadership taken by you on this matter that we believe is important, and most people are saying is dead on arrival. Something needs to be done, and your voice matters. So call it advice, call it leadership. If people like Mr. Sallah doesn't speak forcefully, clearly this thing is not going to work, and we'll be back to square one.
Yes, maybe I need to explain myself. What I'm saying is we need this constructive conversation, and I believe this is the way forward. You are initiating something that is still not in depth. We will move into concretely what the 2020 draft is saying, what the 2024 draft is saying, what exists in the 1997 Constitution. So you will see how these three documents could be integrated if we so desire, and where the procedure allows even something to be derailed, if you wish, at another stage rather than certain stages. So these are all matters that, of course, I'm willing to discuss with people. And I remember in 1996, we took part in helping people to understand that what was at stake, because people like the former president all were against the draft constitution. Right. When right before their eyes, decrees were supreme. So the 1970 Constitution has been suspended, and decrees were the supreme law of the land, and all laws had to conform under the supremacy of decrees. So you had that, and now you are being told that adopt a constitution which will be the supreme law. You say no, ignore that, and you continue to remain under the supremacy of decrees. That did not make much sense. So therefore we had to educate for people to understand context, and that's what you are saying now. This, what you've raised, is very fundamental. I am saying let's stretch the debate for people to understand, and ultimately people themselves will say, well, this is what we should do. I can guarantee you that once everything is clear, we will come to a consensus that nobody will be able to reject.
So but quick question from Saltal before I give it to my co-panelists. Saltal, he's saying that, Honorable Sallah, the question is, New Gambia requires a new Gambian. He's saying, looking back from 2017 to date, do you believe we have a new Gambia? Are we as a people equipped to create a new Gambia as sovereign citizens? Loaded question, Mr. Sallah.
Well, if we are unable to agree on a constitution, which is the fundamental law that should guide every aspect of our public and private lives, then the question goes back, have we done sufficient education to enable our people to be sovereign people? Without the people becoming sovereign people, we do not have a new Gambia. We do not have a new Gambian, because a new Gambia rightly must depend on the new Gambian. And it is this new Gambian we must nurture, and we must take every opportunity. Now is constitution building. Let us join hands and take the opportunity and work on this particular challenge of constitution building and see how far we will go.
Brother Saria, the camera is
thank
on,
you all.
Whoever is managing the video. We can hear Mr. Sallah clearly, but we're not seeing him. Go ahead, Saria.
Yeah, Mr. Honorable Sallah, thank you very much. Listening to you, you mentioned failure of the Constitution, and I understand when the coalition came together, you did not, take a cabinet position because you want to go to the National Assembly because that's your forte, and you felt that you would make a lot of strides out there. Now, listening to you on the draft Constitution, obviously, you were a National Assembly member and 5 orders. Could you explain to the viewers what were your responsibility and the responsibility of each and every member within that assembly and what their rules were?
Well, the responsibility was very simple. Lawmaking is about procedure. Once a bill for the promulgation of a constitution is brought, I think if you follow my presentation there, it was in support of passing the bill at the second reading. Because accepting it to pass did not mean that you accept the content to those who understand parliamentary jurisprudence, because it goes through procedures. I hope that you will get a copy of my book. I've done that in detail to really show what parliamentary procedures govern this constitution building process. One, you only discuss and vote on the principles during the second reading and nothing more. So once it passes, it goes to the business committee of the National Assembly, and they remit it to a committee, and it can even be the committee of the whole assembly. At the committee level, the role is to scrutinize the bill. For me, I explain and I try to move the members so that they see the need for it to go to the committee stage. So if we had gone to the committee stage, this is where you scrutinize the bill, clause by clause, and you invite subject matter specialists and concerned persons. For example, there was a debate between the Christians, and the Muslims, intense debate, and almost, fiery one. And really, it was somewhere saying, as part of the draft in terms of laws of the Gambia, it mentions Sharia. Now, the reality, the context is that constitutions must take charge of humans and also group rights. So if certain people are Christians and Muslims, if they have certain rights, you can also conserve those rights in the constitution so that it becomes a supreme law for them, but it excludes others. So what it says is that Sharia in terms of inheritance, divorce, and marriage would constitute a law under the constitution. Okay, some felt that no, that is really creating a religious bias of some sort. But the reality is, what I emphasize to many of the people who were Christians is no, this is protecting group rights. So if you want your group rights also to be protected on marriage, inheritance, and divorce, that's what you insist to put in that constitution also, so that both religions will be protected in terms of marriage, inheritance, and divorce based on what their principles are, if you have certain principles governing those areas of your life, of your group life. That's how we should have managed the discourse, etc., etc., etc. Now, at the committee stage, all those things that you wanted to put in or to remove could have been done based on the debate. Then it goes to the consideration stage, where the committee will present a report and the recommendation for amendments of the provisions, and then at the committee stage we start to make the law. It is the National Assembly that makes the law. You just bring a bill. If you ask the person who was in charge of the pension fund, this petroleum bill, going all the way to the women's enterprises bill, we took that, and you can see how we almost every element was touched. So the National Assembly is the lawmaker, and therefore we could have looked at all the elements that were of concern to the people and see whether we can agree. If we agree, those provisions would have been put in the Constitution, and then it goes finally to the third reading, where we should need to approve it. So you asked me my role. My role was to move it to that level. And when the first one failed, well, what the standing order says, you can make a motion to revoke the decision. I'm sure that you may have known that I've also made an effort for us to revoke our previous decision, but that also did not go. So those were the steps taken. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yes, Honorable Sallah. Thank you very much. But now, Honorable Sallah, obviously, when you look at the composition of the National Assembly and the second reading, the third reading, all the names were not able to make the headway. And I think Musa said, when you speak, people listen. But looking at all the mechanics and the formulas that plays into pushing one of the most fundamental documents for the Gambia, and we could not make stride, or we could not push it to implement it. And I think the fundamental question was that a failure on each and every member in Parliament not being able to come to a consensus? Because yes, obviously there are pieces that one group or another person would not like, but you have to compromise in order to implement. And that gives back to ground zero, that the 2026. Now, you're not in Parliament. Now, when you were there, it was an issue. And I think I hold all the names, with all due respect, to account for that failure. So now, how do you see moving forward on a difference? Well, what were the breakdown in terms of implementing to take it to the second or third reading?
Yes, you must bear one thing in mind, that in all jurisdictions, I'm sure Musa will tell you, in the United States, they keep record of the votes that the members of the Congress make on all issues. So you cannot offer collective blame in a parliamentary setting, because each votes or abstain to vote. So you indict them by their vote. What I can tell you, when that bill came in 2020, in fact, it fell because of a slight margin. We have a 3/4 majority threshold. The absolute majority accepted that it should go to the committee stage, not because they supported the content, and that must be stressed, but because it is at the committee stage that you can actually scrutinize the content, and it is at the constitutive stage that you can make amendments to the content. So therefore, you can allow it to pass, to go to the stages where you can scrutinize and amend, make propose amendment to see whether we can agree or will not agree. We did not reach that stage. That's what I'm emphasizing to you, that we stopped the process at the second reading because it could not get 3/4 majority. It had absolute majority, more than 50%, but 3/4 majority is a higher majority. and it could not attain that. That's what I'm emphasizing to you. And there can be no collective blame. It's those who did not vote for it will explain why they did not vote for it for that to happen. But secondly, we must also bear in mind that at that time, maybe the understanding of the people had not reached that level, National Assembly members, to reach that level of understanding parliamentary procedures. It may be different now that after all this explanation, parliamentarians may know that they can dispose of the bill at the third reading. So why not allow possibilities of debate and contrast to reach a particular consensus, if that may be able to happen?
Honorable, I just want to follow up on that question here. I think I understand how they work and the one person, one name voting for the bill or against the bill. I clearly understand that. But obviously, there was a threshold that was set. And obviously, what I'm trying to, the collective blame is, how come we could not? I mean, you talk about educating folks, knowing what they need to vote for. And I think looking at the hindsight, how come we did not do that at the time? I mean, if this was a critical and most important piece of a legislation, and that is, it would be one of the hallmarks of the transition government. Obviously, it was not done. It was short. What kind of assurance do we have that somehow what didn't happen at that time when people like you were in parliament and you have 5 other members in the parliament from your party could not build a consensus and bring folks together? Because I think some of you from your party had the most experience, mentor the new folks to ensure that at least things that could not be agreed on, or kind of push it to the second level by educating them, mentoring them, and coaching them. And I think that was not done. And I think that's where my question is. If that was not done, irrespective of one person blaming, we could have built this and get to that, because we knew it was 2/3, but it didn't meet that. That's why it failed. So now moving forward, looking at hindsight, how do we make this possible?
Yes, it's important to report accurately. As I said, when the bill came, it's a day's discussion. People may be influenced from the outside who discuss the content. That's what I'm saying. They were looking at the content rather than understanding that we should discuss the principles. So hindsight means that you must sensitize National Assembly members to really understand the procedures more. And I believe that those who are there now should be more groomed. They had an opportunity of the past, learning from the past. And once that is the case, the fundamental question still stands. Do we allow the bill to pass the second stage, the second reading, and then go to the consideration stage? Or should it be thrown at the second reading? That is the debate that you've raised. I'm emphasizing that we need to have more understanding of the content of all the Constitution, 1997 to 2020 draft, and the 2024 draft, which is now the existing draft for consideration by the National Assembly, and then engage in debate on it. And ultimately, we should build a consensus. That is the task.
Thank you. Go ahead, Musa.
Mr. Sallah, suma mbokki fana nañuy wax ne wax léegi doo ko yërëm de. If we all came together in 2016 to remove Jammeh, and fundamentally we said having a new constitution is a priority. We had a candidate that we all supported. The only reason why he was elected is because we all supported him. Ñun ñëpp ñoko comme ni mbare kat yi di wax ñun ñëpp ñoko support. Here we are in the making of a new constitution. Ñun ñëpp xam nañ, Mr. Sallah, the role that the incumbent, the NPP government played in this process. The people that voted against it were more or less NPP candidates in the National Assembly. They're the ones saying that they don't want it to go to the second reading. So man, ni ma ko gisee mooy ne clearly it was the Barrow government that brought it to the National Assembly, but at the same time, ñoom ñoo ko undermine. And here I would say, play the game, Sam. They tinker with the 2020 draft, make the changes that even undermine some of the things that we wanted to see change during 2016. That is, we don't want an executive government. That is, we want a decentralized power. All of those good things, they went ahead and changed it. And here we are at it again, Mr. Sallah. And it looks like it's going to fail because of the role that they play. 2020 draft failed, man, personally, because of definitely the executive had a hand in it. You never have the threshold. It wasn't going to pass because they voted against it. 2024, they went ahead and changed it. And I'm just saying, I mean, how would this change? How would it pass? If they're not interested in seeing it pass.
I'm going to wax man la déglu bu baax fenn rek lañ uuté mooy ne yow yaay president yow yaa dig ne yaa ngi lead coalition yaa dig ne nga am constitution bu bees yow su fekkee ne li nga war a def pour am constitution bu bees yow sa bopp yaa ko def ba constitution bu bees amul loolu naka la doomi Gambia war a gisee dama téye ne loolu mooy wax ji mooy ne mboolem ko am éene pour ñu am constitution bu bees na ci def éeneem
correct
mboolem koo xam ne kii nag moom nekkul éeneem pour ñu am constitution bu bees ñëpp nañ xam ne kii moo tax constitution bu bees mënut a am loolu mooy politique bi mooy ne li ñu warut a yërëm mooy ne nit ñi dañu war a jël décision di xam kan moo def lan ak su defee loolu naka lañ ko war a gisee kenn warut a toog ne kii lay blame kale lay blame te gis nga yow lii dox lan la sa buta ngi ci loolu kenn waratu la ko wax sax mu mel ni lii leer mooy ne lañu waroon a def ca njëlbeen
correct
pour réew mi doxee nañ ko soxlaa woon ci coalition waaye d'accord nañ ne loolu amul loolu moo yàqu ca doorin ba fi mu nekk nii nag mooy ne dañ am nguur goo xam ne gi comme ni fi président Jawara nekkoon comme ni fi Jammeh nekkoon mooy ne nguuri ki nga xam ne moom lañ fa taaj la mu gisee boppam président dafa am warugal gi leeral nañ leen ko ne ca doorin ba man ni ma waxee ne noonu lañ war a toppatoo constitution bi sax demeewul noonu yoo xam nga lu
correct
because man li ma waxoon mooy ne li nga xam ne dafa sax ci constitution bi ne mënuñ koo laal fekk damuñ référendum nañ ko jël liñ ci bëgg a wecci ñu génnee ko seppi ko defar ko ba pare isi ko ci néegi député yi ñu fexe mu jàll ñu dem référendum li nga xam ne itam nag député yi mun nañ koo defar député yi defar ko su ko defee loolu jarul référendum ñu ëlbati ko ci constitution bi loolu warut a jël benn at lépp a jeex wan nag doxeele wuñ ko noonu dañ toog ne léegi dina taxawal commission te moom la nguuram taxawal moom moo taxaw commission même ba si commission bi moom moo leen tànn ñu waat loo leen ñu def seen liggéey ñu ne constitution ba moom lañ ko war a jox ñu dem jox ko nañ ko waxee mooy ne nañ ko publish ci gazette bi ñu publish ko ci gazette bi nga xam ne kenn mënatu koo laal mu isi ko ci néegi député yi ñu door di waxtaan yow moom fekk moom amul parti foofu waaye nag am na ñoo xam ne ñi soo leen seetee di nga ne moom lañ àndaloon ndaxte gis ngeen ne UDP dafa xaajoon dafa amoon ñu génnoon ci UDP waaw mu mel ni loolu ñun suñ wax waru cee egg because nekkul wax ju am fayda ñëpp xam nañ loolu gis nañ loolu waaye ñëw nañ ba nga xam ne loolu moo tax mënuñoo am soo xaajee néegi député yi ñeneenti xaaj moo tax mënuñoo am ñetti xaaj yi moo tax constitution jàll waaye nag niti Gambie yi suñ déggee li nekk ci constitution bi am na lu ñoo àndal ak lu ñu àndalul foofu itam ngeen war di gën di leeral ndaxte niti Gambie liñ foogoon mooy ne su beneen di ñëwee ne li yang ci sax te moo tax ñun d'accorduñ ci dangaa foog yoon a tax ñu d'accorduñ ci liñ war a gën a wone mooy doxalin ci néegi député yi nekkul ne soo jàllalee li nga xam ne mooy dañ ko ooyee kayiti éene gi loi dafa doore ci éene ñu ko ooyee kayiti éene googu balaa moo ñëw nekk loi ñu ne fu moo njëkk a jiitu mooy dinañ waxtaan lan mooy dalil ba balaa ngaa dugg ci bunte yi ci dalil bi nag foofu warante bu bari nekku ci ku nekk rek am nga sa dalili bopp gannaaw dalil ba nag danga koo yóbbu ci comité bi kuréel gi nga xam ne moo koo segg di seet bunte yi ndax ànd nañ ci ndax ànduñ ci am na lu bari lu nekk ci constitution boobu am na ñu bari ci néegi député yi duñ ci ànd wala suñ ñëwee ci waxtu segg ko ci nga ko war a wax ñu mun a fexe seet ndax dinañ ànd ci génne ko waaw loolu nag moo amutoon ci li CRC isi woon te itam fi mu nekk nii nag foofu la ñu toll ne ñoom dañu dem isiwaat man li ma leen gënoon a wax sax ci su may bind yi mooy ne dañu waroon a taxawal benn consultative committee constitutional consultative committee boo xam ne dinañ ko jox juróom-benni weer ñu waxtaan ak askan wi wax leen li nekk ci 1997 constitution li nekk ci CRC draft bi ba mu leer ci ñoom laaj leen lan mooy seen xalaat ku nekk wax xalaatam ñoom ñu jël loolu bind report jébal ko nguur gi jébal ko itam askan wi wante jaaruñ ci ndigal yooyu mu mel ni ñoom dem nañ defar liñ bëgg a defal jël ci 1997 jël ci CRC li mu defal ak seen xalaati bopp boole leen isil ko askan wi ne lii lañ bëgg mu nekk constitution li ma wax mooy ñoom amuñ doole pour def dara mu nekk constitution liñ am rek mooy isi loola mooy kayiti ene googu ñu isi ko ci néegi député yi nag ñoo am pour segg ko ñoom nag suñ koy segg mun nañu wax ne lii baaxul lii lañ ci war a dugal suñ mun a ànd ci loolu di nga mun a am constitution suñ ci mun sa ànd nag du mun a def foofu la ñu toll bon nag jamono ji ñu toll mooy jamono segga li nga xam ne mooy constitution boobu boole waale ci CRC lañ bindoon boole waa ci 1997 constitution maa ngi wax ne man sax bind naa téere buy segg ñetti yooyu yëpp pour dimbale askan wi ñu mun a xam la ci nekk su ko defee si jamono su mun nañoo wax député yi ñaax leen ñu xam naka lañ war a def ane loolu foofu lañ toll.
So Mr. Sallah, nobody doubts you had a relationship with Barrow. Absolutely no doubt about that, especially at the beginning. And I don't have any details, but I also believe he respects you immensely. How is your relationship with him? Do you communicate with him? Do you call him behind the scenes? Do you see that there is a need for somebody like you, based on your relationship with him, that you can interject as far as this constitution building is concerned? Because I do believe the role that the current government, Barrow himself, can play for the survival of this constitution, in as much as ultimately they're the ones that are going to make it happen. But man, I still believe he has a huge role for this thing to work. Do you think, again, the question is, do you communicate with the man? Do you see yourself injecting behind the scenes to give him advice? Or what do you think? Or am I just talking?
No, lu nekk dañ ko day xalaat foog naa ne léegi-léeg ni nga day gis yenn lettre may koo bind société affaire de Palestine moom mooy di OIC chair bi ma ñu noon lettre ci wàllu Palestine lan lañ war a def ba mun a saafaraal jafe-jafe boobu loolu dem na moom ci office mu mel ni loolu day am wànne nag li nga xam ne doxalini réew la danga war a bàyyi sa xel ne président ni réew kenn mënu koo forcer ci dara te soo bàyyi sa xel bu baax mooy ne benn nit waratu jóg ne yaa ngi ko advice ci mbir li nga xam ne moom laa wax tem leer mooy ne ñoom ñoo tardel constitution bi nga xam ne daanoo ci nekk député yi ñu oo président ni ex-président ni Nigeria ak yooyu li ma leen wax mooy ne ñu ngi tardel mbir yi because loolu mënu cee def dara ñaari yëf rek moo mun a xew mooy la nga xam ne moom la CRC bind ñu isiwaat ko ci néegi député yi fekk wécc nañu mémorandum bi ndax foofu la daanoo woon loolu doo ko mun a isiwaat foog nga defal mémorandum bu bees nga isi ko wala nga taxawal constitutional review committee boo xam ne dina segg yëpp boole ci ñëpp jël xalaati ñëpp ñoo jébbal la ko nga mun a seetaat naka lañ loo isee constitution boo xam ne ànd naa xalaati nit ñi mu dal di ñëw ci néegi député yi waaye xam nga bunte yooyu yëpp xewul fi mu nekk li xew moom lañ war a xam mooy ne ñoom dem nañu bind nañ liñ isi ci néeg ci bugg a isi ci néegi député yi def ko ci gazette bi loolu mooy li xew léegi nag li nekk suñ warugal moo ñu segg loolu ndax lii lu mun a antu la ndax munut a antu man li ma ca mun a yokk mooy ne dafa am doxalin te fekk xamuloo doxalin mu ngi mel ni xamuloo fi nga jëm man ne leen doxalin bi ñoom liñ bugg a moom la ñu bind waan nag munuñoo amal loola pour ñu amal ko foog député yi d'accord ci te député yi foog nga xaaj leen soo xaajee ñeneenti xaaj foog ñetti xaaj yi d'accord ci balaa moo mun a am bon nag gannaaw loolu la ñun li ñu war fi mu nekk nii mooy bunte bu nekk ci ñoom liñ ñu jox ñu segg ko la fa ay CRC defoon itam ñu segg ko lii yëpp ak 93 li segg ko ñu seet lan moo gën ak yeneen xalaat yu rafet ba tey député yi am nañ doole suñ ko jàllalee mu dem ci committee stage am nañ doole pour dugal ci loolu yëpp su fekkee ñoom mun nañ cee d'accord foofu lañ toll soo li ñu yaakaar rek mooy ne ñañ jël def leen ñu nekk député dinañ am ñor goo xam ne suñ amee xalaati nit ñi yëpp dinañ war a isi loo xam ne lii xëj na dinañ ca mun a d'accord pour ñu am constitution bu bees loolu mooy fiñ toll. baro lan la ci baro munaat moom mel ni moom daf ci bokkaatul sax moom su xasee isi loolu mu ngi mel ni nag ci biir waxtaani député mi nekk ci biir néegi député yi su fekkee ñoom nangu nañu seen njiit it jaaral leen fiñ bugg a jaar loolu ba tey moo laa woon fi suñ démocratie bi toll rek loolu nag
baro ben tey am na ci warugal de am na lu
waxin la dama bëgg nga dégg suma waxin bi bu baax maa ngi wax ne loolu tam nañ koy leeral nit ñi because suñ ko leeralu nit ñi duñu xam nguur naka laa doxee maa ngi wane ne fi mu nekk ni exécutif bi mënuñu forcer pour loolu nekk loi pour constitution bi nekk loi seen éene moom lañ bind loolu nag dafaa ñëw ci néegi député su ci député yi d'accord soo leen xaajee ñetti xaaj suñ ci d'accord loolu mooy nekk loi bi mooy dem référendum bi itam mu ngi aju ndax sax nit ñi d'accord nañ ci ndax référendum bi itam foog la nga am juróom fukk ci téeméer ñuy wote ñoo xam ne am nañ carte wote nga am juróom-ñaar fukk ak juróom ci téeméer ñu war a wote balaa moo mun a am xam nga loolu tam nekkul caaxaan soo mu mel ni nekkul lu yomb waaw lii dafa laaj waxtaan tigi ñu xam itam ne kay gu am fulla la te moo ëmb niñ war a doxalee réew mi bon nag ñun ñëpp bokk nañu ci te war nañ koo segg na mu waree.
Yeah, Sariang, I guess we got another round before Mr. Sallah. We held him for 2 hours
5 minutes. 5
already.
Mr. Sallah, thank you very much. Mr. Sallah, I speak very little Wolof, but I think I understand what.
You can ask me in Mandinka.
No. It's okay. I understand where you're going, and I wanted to follow up on the question there. So understanding the polarization of our current political environment and looking at how we got here, in terms of the consultation process to bring the 2024 Constitution. Obviously, we all know where the threshold stands. And going to the second and third reading. I mean, I'm a realist, and you had more experience in that National Assembly than. I think it's probably 0 to none for that to go past those stages based on what happened up to today. So what do you think that would be different? I know you talk about being educated, but the political environment says something totally different. And what it's totally different. So where do you think that things will be different with the 2024 versus the 2020, which had, the CRC, and they had amendments, and they bring it out, which they did. I mean, they gazetted it. But what are some of the steps leading to that was very, very critical. and it looks like there was a lot of pushback. So what do you think would be totally different now, especially where we live in this current situation?
Is the national conversation. What you have just initiated. Has this happened before? We are beginning a new process of interrogating everything that matters to us. And I believe that that is the momentum we should build. Not a momentum of disengagement, as if we're not interested. We are interested, and we must be involved. And that's why I'm saying that we must continue to use this opportunity to educate people more on the content of our draft constitution and the existing constitution. That's the opportunity we have. Let's exploit the opportunity and let's enrich the minds of people. Let's know what is wrong, what is right, what they try to put there that serve executive interests, what they put there that may serve some other interests. Let's look at everything and engage in a conversation among each other so that we can build consensus or unanimity as to what constitutes the constitution of a republic and how do you build it. That is important.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Sallah. I like that. I think, yes, to be optimistic, but I really think if we could not achieve this in 2020, when the likes of Halifa Sallah was there with 5 other members.
No, I think our premise is different. I am saying you have the people, you have the National Assembly members, you have the executive. In 2020, the people were kept aside in terms of the debate. But this time, the people are upfront in terms of the debate. And this engagement you have shows that you are upfront. So that's what we should expand. Let it be a national debate. It may not come, it may come. But know fully that if a new constitution does not come into being as a result of consensus building, it is the 1997 constitution that will continue. So I'm not sure whether that will be a matter for laughter. I think that is a matter of showing that nobody should say anything to Jammeh again for calling for calling that constitution a soldier's constitution. Jammeh has done everything and changed it this way and that way, and you still retain it as the constitution of your republic. Then what can you say to Jammeh again? It shows that the very people who are managing the affairs of a nation and all the political actors that do not see any need to do anything to really reshape the destiny of the nation are collectively responsible for the state of the Gambia. So if that is the Gambia we want, like the person says, well, we don't have a new Gambia and we don't have a new Gambia. But if we accept to engage in the debate to a point that we know exactly what is right and who wanted to do wrong, who wanted to inject something wrong in what should be our document, then we identify those who are against the interests of the nation and those who are for the interests of the nation. And I believe that with that alone, we would have created a template so that those who will govern tomorrow will know where to start. But if we fail to engage now and disengage, well, then it shows that we are yet to be fit to even call ourselves sovereign citizens. This should really provoke the most intense debate on constitution building that ever had taken place in the life of this country. If we do, we would make history, even if the executive does not, or the National Assembly also fails to do so. But the people themselves will know that we elected people, but they have not been able to deliver what we want them to deliver to us.
I totally agree with you, Honorable Sallah, and I think I don't have more further comments, but I think the conversation needs to go in. But as I said, listening to the current, Minister of Justice, some of, as you rightfully said, we can't blame Jammeh. I mean, but some of the 1997 constitutions were taken from a part of the 1997 constitution were taken and implemented into the 2024 draft. And I think the conversation will go in, and but I hope the best, and hopefully we can coalesce. But the fact is, the road will be steep, and hopefully we all reflect on a more spirited debate as far as what country would like to live in and what country would like to see. And with that, we thank you for coming on the program today. But I understand deeply what you're saying, but it is what it is, and we must continue to have a conversation and engagement. And thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope that you'll continue what you've started to open up this theater for debate on all fundamental issues. Now, the issue of the Constitution is before us. The people must remain engaged to know what is the Constitution of a republic. Let's interrogate every element, even if it's going to fail. At the end of the day, let's enrich our population to know that this is Constitution building, and the people are actual lawmakers, the most important lawmakers of a country, because they are the ones who vote at a referendum.
So, Mr. Sallah, my final question before we let you go.
People are calling me, and
He thought that was the last question.
No, this one, some people are texting me that you've said that you will never run for office again. Is there any possibility that you could change your mind? If, let's say, Gambians came together and said, you know what? Because you only ran as a DOI candidate once. The first time you run for president was on the NAD. I mean, the thing fell on your lap. You didn't have a choice in the matter. It's only in 2020 when you actually run under a DOI ticket. So this idea that you've been running for office since independence is neither here nor there. So the whole idea of resigning, is there a possibility that your mind could be changed with having it, I mean, giving it another shot?
It is important to speak with clarity and with conviction. 2016, I saw death right in the face. And for the sake of country and people, we were ready to confront it. I stood in 2021 believing that we've broken the chain and that Gambians would know that power belongs to them, and they were entrusted to people who've convinced them that they could address their needs and aspirations. So my situation is very clear. I love my country. I love my people. I hate poverty. I hate their degradation, not only of Gambia, but Africa. I've lived all my life to change that, and will live all my life to change it. My mission now is not to talk about myself and my role to be this or that. I do not have personal ambition. What I've said, and I've said it very clearly, is that our role now is to ask Gambia what Gambia they want. Ask Gambians what Gambia they want. And what type of leadership can bring that about. That is what I tell every DOI member, everybody who is concerned with a role that I may play, that is what the situation demands. Let's build consensus as Gambians on the type of Gambia we want, irrespective of party affiliation, irrespective of who is going to stand in elections. And then when we define that, we ask ourselves, what type of leadership can actually bring about that Gambia? And in defining that leadership, everybody matters. What we must move away from is this personalization of leadership. We're talking about leadership. And I will assure the Gambian people, I will forever be among the leadership of a nation who will be working day and night to eradicate the poverty, to eradicate the injustice, to eradicate the ignorance in my homeland. That is what I committed myself for. That's the contract I signed since I was 16 years. That contract is inviolable. And people should not continue to distort what I have said. What I've said is not abandoning the nation and the people. What I've said is situational. And it is well understood that I offered myself and the people made their decision. I am not the type of person who in any way, under any circumstances, and say power for any sake. Power as the people want, and power to eradicate their poverty. And one can always be part of a leadership to be able to do that.
On that note, Mr. Sallah, we hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Definitely bring you back again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guys, there you have it. We asked the questions. Mr. Sallah, take it down. I don't know where my co-panelist is so that we can, and Jobis, if you are, I seriously still believe that we owe you an opportunity to, Jobis, to have your say on the issues that we raised earlier. King Jobis, you can call my cell number. I don't know whether you are still on or not. So Sariang, what's the takeaway?
Well, yeah, I mean, the conversation was spirited, and I think we asked the right questions, and he answered. And the conversation needs to continue.
Right.
And I think what he's trying to lay out, especially the last question that I asked him, I think he said, I think we are maybe we are on a different premise, but no, we are on the same premise. And I think on a broader perspective, I think what he's laying out is, in summary, is what you voted for, that's what you got, right? Thinking about the consultation process.
Right.
How do we take leadership? And one of his answers, he said, the government can draft their constitution what they desire, but that is necessary. That's not necessarily what the people need to buy in. I think that was very, very interesting dichotomy, and he tried to blare. But I think what I heard from the man is, let's reflect on everything that happens when we first had a change of government. Challenges, opportunities, and now here we are. We're talking about a constitution, and I think I don't want to sugarcoat anything, man. I don't think this whole 2024 we can debate it anyhow we want, but I don't think if both sides are not compromising and the way it was handled in the first place, I don't think it has a lot of blessings. So I think, but he lay out a gun, and this is something that you have to reflect on. He says, make sure we had a conversation. We started 2020. That the only thing that I was a little bit not sure when he says we didn't have that opportunity in 2020.
We did.
So I was little taken aback, because I think we had, because if there was even more, was we had a committee or consultation committee that went around, different parts of the world and engaged communities, and these were inputs that were incorporated into Constitution. So that was very, very interesting, picking that from his conversation. But now he says, now the people are aware, right? And we need to continue to be, we need to continue to engage and, what happened and all that. So I think it's important, but again, it is more than that, and I think all of us needs to reflect on, and one way or the other. But there were obviously opportunities, and where I asked him, I'm not talking about the vote tally, Musa. We've seen here, especially with the country that we live in, whereby if there is a legislation.
Mhm.
And there are key components that tell it's not gonna get the necessary vote behind the scene before you bring it to the floor, or you had a there was leadership in part whereby you bring both things folks together and hash those out. I'm not gonna paint anybody as saint here. And I see a lot of people, especially, I don't know who this person is, Mari Sanyang and all that. I am not ingrained into painting someone as saint here. The fact is we understand legislative leadership and behind the scene before you bring it, you need to tabulate those words. Obviously, if you knew the threshold is high, and you probably need to hash out those little nuances that needs to be hashed out behind the scene before you bring it to the floor. I thought that was not an answer I got. So, I mean, it is what it is. But that was what I was effectively looking, rather than saying the votes were recorded. Yes, we know the votes were recorded. But I think if I knew where Musa and I and Coach stand behind the scene, we'll have a discussion and say, hey, man, this is one of the, I mean, the Constitution was one of the hallmarks of transition justice, right? We wanted a new constitution. This was a desire. 116 billion was pumped into this thing. So if we knew that it was going to be a failure, and I understand some people move to the other party, I get all that stuff. But what kind of leadership and what did we bring to the table and discuss with these NAMs and say, hey, this is great. We're not all going to be happy with what we got in the Constitution, but at least for the sake of Gambia and for what we stood for and fought for, can we make this, something that is meaningful to Gambians? And I think that was what my take was.
No, I mean, I hear you loud and clear, but you know what? I don't think there was anything that Mr. Sallah could have done. First of all, he doesn't have the votes, and these people were adamant to railroad this thing. They didn't want it to pass. So, and that's where we are again. That is not really. There isn't Pop Samba.
No. I am. Man, I'm a very fair guy. So that's why I let you to handle.
What are you saying? Are you saying that our newlywed is not a fair guy? Is that what?
No. He is fair. He is fair. Sorry and congratulations. Anyway.
No. Protect it. My mom will like this.
Don't listen to him. That's what he does. But no, I just wanted to say, what great job with the interview. I think you asked all the relevant questions and they were answered. It is just interesting to just listening. It looks like 2016 coalition will be relitigated over and over and over again. But it's all part of it. One thing that I wanted to say, my understanding of what he was talking about, the opportunity that we have now that we did not have in 2020, is that, of course, the 2020 draft, it went around, people's opinions were consulted, and that formed it. But what we have now is the opportunity of hindsight. Because especially in Parliament. Now Gambians will be looking at this and saying exactly, well, okay, the last time this thing was rejected, it was never given the chance. Because now everybody now understands the process that it must take before it gets to the level that it's to take. And I think that's where I believe he was alluding to. Definitely when it comes to consultation, you could not have had a greater and wider consultation than they did with the draft. But I think every Gambian who is alive now and was alive during the 2020 debate when Barrow and his people derailed the process, they were the only people who did it, is that now the processes that must take place before it gets to where it ought to be. And because if you look at all our conversation now, Musa, when it went to Parliament, maybe a lot of people did not even understand that it had to go through those processes until it failed. And then we realized, oh, it could have gone to this level. Right. But now everybody who is talking about this constitution, what needs to happen, is talking about, no, let's allow you to go to the first, second, and third reading. So now at least you can say that the Gambians now have a greater awareness of the process,
as far as the process,
than they did in 2020, even though in 2020 they were fully engaged in the drafting, in what came out of as the draft. Correct. But may not have understood the process as much as they do now based on the experiences of 2020. But at the end of the day, I think you guys did a great job and all that.
What do you think, Asamba? The question that I was trying to ask, and even up to now, do you think Mr. Sallah could really inject himself in the process? Not necessarily publicly, even though he said he writes letters, because I know that Barrow has tremendous amount of respect for him. Could he use that currency? I mean, he could use that capital to lean on him.
Let me say this. Let me say this. Barrow also had tremendous respect for Ousainou Darboe. What happened to that? It was the same Barrow and his wife, State House, who wrote that letter accusing Halifa Sallah of everything in the book. Because, Musa, if you look at President Barrow and how he deals with people, how he can one minute talk about how much he respects somebody, and the next minute can go out there and just disrespect you like crazy. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock in that. And like Halifa is doing, if he feels that there's something that needs to happen, well, he would say what he has to say. And it is up to Barrow and his advisors to listen to them. Musa, how many people are advising this government? From you to everybody else.
You know what I mean. And that's I know. That's the very problem that we have. They have his ear. Those are the people sinking this country. And I'm not trying to say this to kind of, absolve Barrow of any responsibility. I mean, they're the ones putting us in this mess. I mean, sometimes we all would say, this man would be fine without even running for another. Even people were thinking that he wouldn't even run in 2026. Clearly, there were people out there. Him running in 2026 means a lot to them. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let me. This is what I believe, Dal Musa. If Barrow Magub Jomala, and what I've seen is Barrow does what Barrow wants to do.
Yeah.
To me, of course, you engage the country and see what you have to say. And every president who is worth his or her salt would read the newspapers every day to see what the opinion of people are. And then you should be able to derive from those opinions what you believe best serves your interests. But again, I think there is one thing that Halifa said, Musa, and that we must not always lose sight of. We should take public officials to account, but the people too must be accountable for their deeds.
Definitely.
Musa, we cannot just go every time and just vote for any way we want and then expect that we'll be getting a Gambia that we deserve. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that's where Saltal was going with that question. I thought, and Halifa basically agreed that for us to build a new Gambia, we have to build new Gambians. And Yang Yai is always, drumming on that point as well. But, bro, knowing the reality of our people, poverty, we're immersed in poverty. We all know that. A good chunk of our people are low-informed voters. And not only that, ethnic sensitivities all over the place. In a situation like that, call it whatever you want to call it, but change ain't gonna happen anytime soon. Bilal.
Well, anyway, I gotta let you guys go. I'm working on a big one. I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to call that person today and try to get him or her to come to our show on Sunday, and not for anything, but I believe that, and I'm part of this show.
Sunday. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll
talk about it because the reason for that is, listen, anybody can have whatever opinion that you have, but you cannot also underplay or downplay the importance of this medium. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
You know, so we'll try to give
you
people
kudos, man. Kudos. Maybe.
I'm not this guy.
No. I know your negotiation skills, and I know what you can pull. We know that.
But I'm not going to bring a Basiru now from elected. You don't even know the guy was not even elected anymore. I say, I do my due diligence. You know, I bring heavy hitters.
Marlon did the big saps last week, so let's not sorry.
Thank you. There you go. Thank you very much. That's your level. But anyway, I gotta get out of here. I
thank you guys, Coach, man. Good, thank you, sir.
I think, man, you're very tired, without a doubt. I know. I mean, last week was like it looks like you were living in airplanes.
Yes, obviously, because I flew back. I didn't get here till about 12:30, and I have to wake up for a presentation at 6:30 in the morning due to time difference to folks in DC. So it was like a thing, but it's a good one, Musa, and I think I think the conversation the conversation was robust, and we had a good conversation, and that's what this country is all about. So either way, you can take sides and take responsibility.
Coach, but you are only 268 viewers. Why telling your medium so high?
Right at the current time, but over a couple of days, it's gonna take a while, for that. I mean, maybe he's not been following through.
We're gonna have 10,000-12,000 watching.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it aggregates. It's the clicks and the viewers who goes back and listen afterwards. That's what matters.
Yeah. But anyway, what they call it? I mean, we're gonna adjourn now, Mr. Jobis. If you wanna come back next week, I'll send you the link. I really want to give you the opportunity to, defend yourself or speak yourself. Everything that I said, I believed in it, and if it helps your feelings, I'm really sorry. But anyway, till next week, we will be back on Sunday.
Inshallah, but you need to have that schedule, a conflict of schedule with Coach for Sunday though, behind the scenes.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, move out.
All right, man. All right.